themselves under pressure. So they've only got 3 laps, even though they've got 15 minutes, they've only got 3 laps to be able to put the timing in for where they're going to be positioned on the grid. So it's important straight away getting focused and getting in there to get that first lap time, to then be able to push on to try and improve that lap time for the second and third laps. But it's interesting to see as we watch Josh Stokes here from Centre Racing LMDH coming around into the stadium section. You can sort of see how low to the ground these LMDH cars, and it's going to be super tricky. Like I said, when the GT3 cars are in there, they're going to be going a lot slower than these LMDHs around this part of the section. So it's all going to be about how they can do as Josh sorts of lines himself up, coming through turn number 15 now, coming out of the Sud curve for his fast opening lap as he lets rip, coming down the start-finish straight for his first lap.
You can see now drivers already putting lap times on the board. That was a good lap there from Josh Stoltz to move into P1 provisionally in the LMDH AM category. We'll see some more drivers setting some lap times as Paul Darling exiting corner number 1. Will he move up towards the front for the Satellite Racing Blue team? No, he does not. You can see both Satellite Racing team drivers currently in P5 and P6, so they'll look to try and get some better results here in the later stages of this qualifying session. It was a Ferrari 1-2 in the GT3 categories, but now it's the D's Porsche. I will not even attempt to pronounce that German name. I have German ancestors, and I do not want them rolling in their graves. They're currently at the front of the GT3 Pro category in the very early stages of this session. We gotta wonder here what cars are going to be the ones for choice. Currently, it's Porsche leading in both LMDH categories and GT3 Pro, but those Ferraris, you can see them littering the GT3M standings right now, currently P1, P3, and P5, 6, and 7 there. So the Ferraris seem to be the cars of choice. Certainly, I think they are a very gorgeous looking race car ever since they were introduced a few seasons ago here on the iRacing platform, but as a little bit of a checkered past. I remember in that first season there were plenty of drivers making mistakes in that car because it was a very fast race car, but also very vulnerable to make a mistake. That's a good lap time there from Brock Kelly to move up to the front of the GT3 AM category for the Fendi Racing White team there at a 1:37.9. That's a pretty good lap time from him. The Pneumatic Motorsports Blue is at the front of the LMDH Pro category. Actually, never mind. The Satellite Racing Teal team moves up to the front in that Cadillac, a 124.1. Meanwhile, Valhalla is currently at the front in LMDH, and that's Overtake Team Black moving up to the front of the GT3 Pro. A lot of moving, a lot of shuffling as these drivers slowly set in their very quick lap times.
Yeah, definitely is. I was watching on timing tower, the Satellite Racing Teal team, basically purple sectors every single sector in that last lap there, and you can see by the time 4/10 of a second over a Precision Racing Esports. Just looking down there, a lot of greens on the timing tower, so a lot of improvements on the laps coming in thick and fast. Like we said, we've got that first banking lap in now, and now they're starting to progress on, moving further forward to try and get the faster laps, and this is where we're starting to see the second and the third, and hopefully by the third lap we'll be able to sort of see the fast times. So looking at Max Muir in the Racing Satellite team, he put another black sections there, so it's not quite as fast as his second lap here in his third and final lap. So I think his time is going to be the one to try and beat at the moment, as we see 10-2-10 to Syntec there move up into 6th place. I mean, you can just see the times, how close they are in these LMDH Pro categories. Going further down, you look at the LMDH AMS, a little bit of a time to gain there, half a second between SimHQ Motorsport Orange and Valhalla Motorsports there in the LMDH. Then we look further back at the GT3 Pro cars, 2/10 of a second between Overtake Team White and 10-2 Delta Sim 144 there, but it's super close, super competitive. I mean, probably the biggest gap is in that GT3 and Fendi Racing White team there, 1:37.9, fantastic, like near enough 7/10 of a second ahead of the field at the moment, with Valhalla Motorsports there in second place on a 1:38.651, so a little bit of a time. So Fendi Racing team really putting out its stall here early on in that GT3 AM with around about 7/10 of a second gap over the rest, as we see Pneumatic Motorsport Blue moving up into third place on the LMDH Pro. It'll be interesting to see Satellite Racing Blue there in 5th place at the moment, so only around about 0.02 of a second slower than the 10-2 10-2 Delta Syntec 377 team. So it's going to be interesting to see that Satellite Racing Blue. You were mentioning them earlier on. They had a bit of a disaster out in Spa. They got taken out early on in the race, then had a drive-through penalty later on, but still managed to secure 4th place overall. It'd be interesting to see what that team can do if they manage to have a clean race. I mean, we've seen the Satellite Racing Teal team completely dominate that LMDH class, 3 wins out of 3, and they normally sprint away from the rest of the field. So I think that 2nd place in the LMDH Pro category is the one where we're going to be watching intently to see who can take that position by the scruff of its neck and really take command in position, because you can't really see past that Satellite Racing Teal team at the moment in the LMDH Pro category. They are absolutely annihilating the field when it comes to them LMDH pros. But the rest of the field, GT3s, super competitive. Fendi Racing still managing to keep that lead. Lunatic Racing have closed that gap now to 0.3 of a second. I did mention them earlier on, you know, having an excellent race 2 and 3. Unfortunately didn't have the best of races out in Daytona. So certainly is a team on the charge at the moment in the GT3 AM field.
Yeah, looking through all the teams, I was going to mention talking about fighting for 2nd place in that championship in LMDH Pro. The team that's currently in that spot right now, 100 Force, I was going to mention that this qualifying wasn't looking too good for them, but they slid into 4th with the last lap that they put on the board. Right now, that Satellite Racing Team Teal team is up towards the front in fairly convincing fashion, about 0.4 of a second gap there at the front side. Don't think they will be challenged, as 100 Force has now come into the pits, completing their qualifying session. You can see now Lunatic Racing coming around the final corner. Will they be able to close up that roughly 0.3 of a second gap between themselves and the Fendi Racing white team? They're going to cross the start-finish line. Will they get it done? Ooh, there you go. They move up to the front there. About 0.2 of a second that they leaped there. So that was a 0.5 of a second gain, a half a second gain in that Audi. That was a great lap there for Nick McLaughlin to take the provisional pole position in the GT3 AM category. And you can see him going slow. He finished all of his allotted laps. So that is a fantastic way for him to end his qualifying session. Looking currently that Lunatic Racing is going to be at the front of the GT3 AM category. We have only a few more teams left to set a qualifying time. This is a Penguin RC Simulation GT3 team, driven currently by Nate Stewart, running in P9 in this session right now. I believe this is his last lap, if I'm not mistaken, so he'll have to have a good lap here in this Audi if he wants to claw his way up through the field. Currently in that top 10, as I said, but I'm sure he'll be looking for any way in the book to try and claw up some time. He has about a half a second gap to move into P6 with really slow motion racing, putting in a pretty decent lap time, currently P6 in this session in that Porsche. So we're riding on board with Nate Stewart, looking at him turn into that hairpin, trying to straddle that sausage curb on the outside as he careens his way to turn number 7, which is going to be a tricky corner. If anyone tries an overtake there, they likely have a death wish. This is a really good overtaking opportunity, though, into the Mercedes arena. That's a fantastic overtaking opportunity, a hard braking zone, but it's really tricky to get the move done unless you have a commanding run coming through turn 8, because you have 9 and 10 to really keep these drivers on their toes. So we'll see if he tries to improve in this qualifying time. It's looking like a decent lap from him. He still has to nail this section. Coming through the stadium here, entering Sachs Curve, turn number 12. Sebastian Vettel fans will not like that corner one bit after what happened in 2018, coming through the quick succession of turns number 13 and 14, entering the Sud Curve here, the south corner in right now, going through, trying to get on that throttle as quickly as he can, hit that exit curve, and he's going to go to the line now. Will he improve his time? I believe he will not. I do not see him moving up there, so unfortunate. Nate Stewart, I believe it actually, I don't even believe our timing screen update, so I think maybe he picked up some kind of incident during that lap that invalidated his lap time there, so a little bit of a disappointment there as they're going to be slotting in P9.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's nothing infuriating when you're on that fast lap. You get into the final sector of this track, and you get that pesky off track. You know, there's nothing worse. But you can certainly know if you've got the pace during the race. But it's going to be really, like we said at the earlier on in the broadcast, it's getting that positioning correctly and making sure you stay safe on this first lap, because the first lap here can be treacherous, certainly with the amount of cars. One person makes a a little bit of a mistake, then that can really put pay to a lot of people's races. So you've really got to make sure. One thing I do like about this series is they have an orange section, and what that means is that the organisers have advised about keeping it nice and clean on the opening lap to make sure that everybody can get into their positions. But when the blood starts boiling and that checker flag comes down, then it's all about the racing and keeping clean. But them opening laps can win all, well, they can't win, but they can certainly lose you an endurance race, and it makes it a really hard day if you have an incident early on in this races, as we look at Nate Stewart there from Penguin RC Simulation, still in third. He must have had another lap here, because he's coming back round again. I'm just having a look at his times. Hasn't improved on his own time, so I don't imagine he will be moving up anywhere in the orders, and he doesn't. He stays in 9th place overall. And we have the closing couple of minutes left of this qualifying before we get into the 3-hour race ahead of us.
It's looking fairly lock and stern for a lot of these drivers. It's looking like Satellite Racing Team Teal is going to grab the pole position for the LMDH Pro category. I believe we only have a few cars left on track setting a lap time. We can see now this is the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple team, currently P6 in the LMDH AM category. They're going to try and find any way they can to break into that top 5. You can see just the smallest gaps here in this qualifying session deciding the fate of a position. The team break fade there in P number 5 at a 126.852, and then the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple at a 126.860. So it's just 8 thousandths of a second separating these drivers, and at a track this long, that could be just a matter of about an inch and a half separating these drivers in this session. We'll see, will John Taylor move up into the position? Yes, he does. He moves up into 4th and bumps the team break fade down into 6th, and then the Accent Racing LMDH program there into P number 5. That was a pretty good lap time from them, picked up a few tenths of a second, so pretty good lap, all things considered. I believe the qualifying session has now come to an end, and I'm not sure what in the world that noise was from you there, Andy. I think I may need to find some sort of medical attention for you. I'm not sure if I can call 911 here in the States for you in the UK, but this qualifying session has now come to a close. We're just waiting for the time to run out. I believe everyone has completed their lap times, if I'm not mistaken. We may have, actually, no, there are no cars on track right now, so we have a small little, this is a calm before the storm right now, folks. We'll just wait a small little bit before we oh, that was actually our producer Josh that had the very bizarre noise there. So Josh, I think I'm not sure how to contact some sort of medical attention to you in Canada, but my thoughts go out to you, my friend. I'm not sure what in the world that noise. That was very disturbing. I thought one of us had been like, I don't know, like, how can I best describe it, like possessed by an alien or something like that. It was a very subhuman noise that I heard. But anyways, before we talk about people having very strange noises on this broadcast, I think we can go through the starting grid now. It's Max Muir for the Satellite Racing Team Teal at the front of the running order, a 124.1. That's a good lap time from him. Michael Diaz for Precision Racing Esports in 2nd. Miguel Colon in P number 3. That's going to be 100 Force in 4th. It's going to be the Tenuto Delta Simtech number 337 car in P number 5. Paul Darling will be in 6th for the Satellite Racing Blue team. That will be CMS Racing Pro in 7th, Penguin RC Simulations in 8th, and that's going to be Sim HQ Motorsports Red in 9th, followed by Team FSR Venom, rounding out the top 10 in the LMDH Pro category. Chris Braun, and he will be in number 11 position. That's CRF Motorsports in P number 12. We can go through the rest of the grid now and go through the rest of the drivers. Overtake Team Red in LMDH Pro RC Simulations in 14th, and you can see Mecca overtake, and that's going to be Obsidian Racing Future rounding out the field in the LMDH Pro category. Going quickly through the LMDH AM Sim HQ, and that's going to be Dog Bear Bark in P1 and P2 in that class. Valhalla Motorsports Tie, I believe it's tie-dye if I'm not mistaken, in P number 3. That's going to be John Taylor Tammy with Pneumatic Motorsports Purple in P number 4. You can go through the rest of the grid in LMDHM. We're waiting for these drivers to go and start this lap. I believe we actually have a shortened pace lap here, so we might have to go through and touch on some of the GT3 drivers right now. You can see Stoltz and Balanchi there running at some of the field. Only 8 cars in LMDH. I'll pass this off to you, Andy, for the GT3s.
Yeah, definitely is. Over into the GT3 Pros, and on pole position we got overtake Team White in second place. We've got 10-2 Delta Syntech 144 with Overtake Team Black in third place. These are Porsche Rennfahrer in fifth place with Really Slow Motion Racing in sixth place. In the GT3 AM, we've got Lunatic Racing heading out of the field with Overtake Team Pink in second, Valhalla Motorsport in third with Sim HQ in fourth place. In fifth place, we've got Bear Pope Zero with sixth place being the Back Pain and Eye Strain Racing team there. So we're just coming around exactly into the opening, a real short opening lap for these drivers to get themselves ready into this race before we actually start this 3 hour, and it's all down again to the Satellite Racing Teal team and Max Beer to start this race off.
They're going to be in command of the field when the pace car makes that turn into pit lane, which it has done now. And when the green flag comes out, the drivers are going to be on their way, try and get single file as quickly as they can before they enter corner number 1. That's a tricky spot that we mentioned in the qualifying session. The green flag is out. We already see some drivers pulling out, trying to get some moves done very early on into this race. 3 wide nearly coming into corner number 1 there. That is not a very smart move to do at the very early stage of this 3-hour race, but it's Max Muir in that Satellite Racing Team Teal grabbing the lead very early on, commanding right now, holding this lead currently, but we'll see, will he get a move done here? I gotta wonder what energy strategies are some of these drivers on. Are they trying to save some energy? Are they just trying to burn it very early on? We'll just have to wait and see. Meanwhile, the GT3 drivers have already gotten their start, and right now we have a little bit of a battle here between some of the drivers at the front of the GT3 category. Clean start so far, which is a little bit shocking, but we still have quite a long ways to go here before we end this first lap.
Yeah, certainly there is cars drift just as we see 3 wide here coming through the parabolic for the first time, coming down into the hairpin, and this is where the issues can be caused with 3 wide, and really got to give each other space coming through as we just watch the drivers coming through. A little bit of Joshua, and one of the cars spin there. Unfortunately, that is I believe that is Bear Pope Zero that may have Enduro that spun there at the end. We'll have a look to see who's lost a lot of position. It looks like Last 10th Race Team as well has lost a lot of positions, down 12 from where they started with Chris Broad at the wheel. But it's this opening lap issues in it. All the cars are literally stacked on top of each other, so you've really got to make sure that you give each other space on this opening couple of laps. But you can see there already Racing Teal Blue, and it comes like almost normal of this. The top 3 cars managed to get away from the rest of the field, and we're seeing this early on in this race with Satellite Racing Teal 2 just starting to pull away with Precision Racing, and a 2-second gap back to Pneumatic Motorsport Blue, where then the rest of the fields are pretty much compact. You can see the gap there already, even after 1 lap. So certainly shows the pace of that Satellite Racing Teal team in first place. But Precision Racing Esports again managing to keep on to the coattails of that ever flying Satellite Racing 2. Looking further back then at the GT3, all in a big line, a big concertina, almost like a show parade on these opening laps. Everyone trying to get the positions, and we look with Really Slow Motion Racing here in 6th place currently in the pro category. All pretty close at the moment on track, so it's going to be just getting into the groove. It's a 3-hour race. You know, they've got to make sure that they keep the positions that they start off with, and then as the race progresses, just naturally start getting the way up, as we see the Bear Pope team there trying to get up onto the inside. But sort of by doing that, you lose a lot of space there. And watch the Ferrari on the outside there as he gets closed off, coming through turn number 7 here into the Mercedes complex. And like you were saying, a great place for overtake. Super Tote trying to get down the inside there. Valhalla Motorsports thinks better of it, is Adam Watkey, and yeah, lives to tell the tale. But that's probably an easy mistake to make, to try and get up that inside, overshoot that corner, and then go out wide on the exit. But managing to keep it nice and tight. But certainly Adam in that Valhalla Motorsports car is being super racy here today, and trying to chase down the Back Pain and Eye Strain team.
I think all these drivers at this stage are realizing, hey, we've got a 3-hour race in front of us. We need to take it a little bit easy, just calm down, try and get to the finish. We saw on lap 1 drivers already going 3 wide, entering that hairpin. I think all these drivers should be counting their lucky stars, the fact that they didn't create a much bigger stack up than it did. Certainly some drivers had to slow down, but there wasn't nearly as much contact as I was expecting, as I nearly get my tongue wrapped around get my tongue wrapped around itself about 17 times as I said that there's a half spin coming through that hairpin on the first time by. We may need to take a look at a replay if we can of that, because I think that was just very hard racing of all those drivers going 3 wide in a corner, which, as we mentioned towards this broadcast, there's very few sections of this racetrack where you can go 3 wide successfully.
38.65 middle part of the race.
That's a good lap time there from Brock Kelly to move up to the front of the GT3 AM category for the Fendi Racing White team. They're at a 137.9. That's a pretty good lap time from him. The Pneumatic Motorsports Blue is at the front of the LMDH Pro.
You can just see the times, how close they are in these LMDH, around about 7 DH.
They slot into 4th with the left to set a qualifying to really keep it.
Then that
Racing Team Teal is going to grab the pole position for the Will John Taylor move up? Producer Josh, that had the very bizarre noise there. So Josh, I think I'm not sure how to contact some sort of medical attention to you in Canada, but my thoughts go out to you, my friend. I'm not sure what in the world that noise. That was very disturbing. I thought one of us had been like, I don't know, like, how can I best describe it, like possessed by an alien or something like that. It was a very subhuman noise that I heard. But anyways, before we talk about people having very strange noises on this broadcast, I think we can go through the starting grid now. That's Max Muir for the Satellite Racing Team Teal at the front of the running order, a 124.1. That's a good lap time from him. Michael Diaz for Precision Racing Esports in second. Miguel Colon in P number 3. That's going to be Hunter Force in 4th. It's going to be the Tenuto Delta Simtech number 337 car in P number 5. Paul Darling will be in 6th for the Satellite Racing Blue team. Then will be CMS Racing Pro in 7th, Penguin RC Simulations in 8th, and that's going to be Sim HQ Motorsports Red in 9th, followed by Team FSR Venom, rounding out the top 10 in the LMDH Pro category. Chris Braun, and he will be in number 11 position. That's CRF Motorsports in P number 12. We can go through the rest of the grid now and go through the rest of the drivers. Overtake Team Red in LMDH Pro, RC Simulations in 14th, and you can see NECA overtake, and that's going to be Obsidian Racing Future rounding out the field in the LMDH Pro category. Going quickly through the LMDH AM Sim HQ, and that's going to be Dog Bear Bark in P1 and P2 in that class. Valhalla Motorsports Tie, I believe it's tie-dye if I'm not mistaken, in P number 3. That's going to be John Taylor Tammy with Pneumatic Motorsports Purple in P number 4. You can go through the rest of the grid in LMDHM. We're waiting for these drivers to go and start this lap. I believe we actually have a shortened pace lap here, so we might have to go through and touch on some of the GT3 drivers right now. You can see Stoltz and Balanchi there running at some of the field. Only 8 cars in LMDH. I'll pass this off to you, Andy, for the GT3s.
Yeah, definitely is. Over into the GT3 Pros, and on pole position we've got Overtake Team White in second place. We've got 10-2 Delta Simtech 144 with Overtake Team Black in 3rd place. He's a Porsche Rennfahrer in 5th place with Really Slow Motion Racing in 6th place. In the GT3 AM, we've got Lunatic Racing heading out of the field with Overtake Team Pink in 2nd, Valhalla Motorsport in 3rd with Sim HQ in 4th place. In 5th place, we've got Bear Poke Zero with 6th place being the Back Pain and Eye Strain Racing team there. So we're just coming around exactly here into the opening, a real short opening lap for these drivers to get themselves ready into this race before we actually start this 3-hour, and it's all down again to the Satellite Racing Teal team of Max Beer to start this race off.
They're going to be in command of the field when the pace car makes that turn into pit lane, which it has done now. And when the green flag comes out, the drivers are going to be on their way, try and get single file as quickly as they can before they enter corner number 1. That's a tricky spot that we mentioned in the qualifying session. The green flag is out. We already see some drivers pulling out, trying to get some moves done very early on into this race. 3 wide nearly coming into corner number 1 there. That is not a very smart move to do at the very early stage of this 3-hour race. But it's Max Muir in that Satellite Racing Team Teal now grabbing the lead very early on, commanding right now, holding this lead currently, but we'll see, will he get a move done here? I gotta wonder, what energy strategies are some of these drivers on? Are they trying to save some energy? Are they just trying to burn it very early on? We'll just have to wait and see. Meanwhile, the GT3 drivers have already gotten their start, and right now we have a little bit of a battle here between some of the drivers at the front of the GT3 category. Clean start so far, which is a little bit shocking, but we still have quite a long ways to go here before we end this first lap.
Yeah, certainly do. As the cars just jostle, as we see 3 wide here coming through the parabolic for the first time, coming down into the hairpin, and this is where the issues can be caused with 3 wide, and really got to give each other space coming through as we just watch the drivers coming through. A little bit of jostling, and one of the cars spin there. Unfortunately, that is, I believe that is Bear Pope Zero that may have Enduro that spun there at the end. We'll have a look to see who's lost a lot of position. It looks like Last 10th Race Team as well has lost a lot of positions, down 12 from where they started with Chris Braun at the wheel. But it's this opening lap issues in it. All the cars are literally stacked on top of each other, so you've really got to make sure that you give each other space on this opening couple of laps. But you can see there already Racing Teal Blue, and it comes like almost normal of this. The top 3 cars have managed to get away from the rest of the field, and we're seeing this early on in this race with Satellite Racing Teal 2 just starting to pull away with Precision Racing Esports, only half a second behind, but then a 2-second gap back to Pneumatic Motorsport Blue, where then the rest of the fields are pretty much compact. You can see the gap there already, even after 1 lap, so certainly shows the pace of that Satellite Racing Teal team in first place. But Precision Racing Esports, again, managing to keep on to the coattails of that ever flying Satellite Racing team. Looking further back then at the GT3, all in a big line, a big concertina, almost like a show parade on these opening laps. Everyone trying to get the positions as we look with really slow motion racing here in 6th place currently in the pro category. All pretty close at the moment on track, so it's going to be just getting into the groove. It's a 3-hour race. You know, they've got to make sure that they keep the positions that they start off with, and then as the race progresses, just naturally start getting the way up, as we see the Bear Pope team there trying to get up onto the inside, but sort of by doing that you lose a lot of space there. And watch the Ferrari on the outside there as he gets closed off coming through turn number 7 here into the Mercedes complex. And like you were saying, a great place for overtake. Super Tote trying to get down the inside there. Valhalla Motorsports thinks better of it, is Adam Watkey, and yeah, lives to tell the tale. But that's probably an easy mistake to make, to try and get up that inside, overshoot that corner, and then go out wide on the exit. But managing to keep it nice and tight. But certainly Adam in that Valhalla Motorsport car is being super racy here today, and trying to chase down the back pain and eye strain team.
I think all these drivers at this stage are realizing, hey, we've got a 3-hour race in front of us. We need to take it a little bit easy, just calm down, try and get to the finish. We saw on lap 1 drivers already going 3 wide, entering that hairpin. I think all these drivers should be counting their lucky stars, the fact that they didn't create a much bigger stack up than it did. Certainly some drivers had to slow down, but there wasn't nearly as much contact as I was expecting, as I nearly get my tongue wrapped around get my tongue wrapped around itself about 17 times as I said that there's a half spin coming through that hairpin on the first time by. We may need to take a look at a replay if we can of that, because I think that was just very hard racing of all those drivers going 3 wide in a corner, which, as we mentioned towards this broadcast, there's very few sections of this racetrack where you can go 3 wide successfully. Certainly overtakes entering that corner with the heaviest braking zone on this entire racetrack. It is expected that we'll see some drivers go for moves here, as we may see some this time by. Now these drivers actually taking it a little bit careful here. They're realizing again, hey, 3 hours in, we need to take it a little bit easy and be there towards the finish of this race. This is Miguel Colon, currently P3, the Pneumatic Motorsports Blue driver, currently running P3 in the LMDH Pro category. He has actually lost track of Precision Racing Esports and Satellite Racing Teal right ahead of him. The gap is about 3.3 seconds, currently only about 5 minutes into this race right now. So he's acting as a little bit of a rolling roadblock, shall we say. You've got 100 Force, Tenuto, Delta Sport, Delta Simtech, my apologies, and you've got a whole bunch of cars right behind him. The gap's between all these drivers are not very much. So I think right now, Pneumatic Motorsports Blue acting as a little bit of a pick, as a rolling roadblock, shall we say, at the front of this LMDH Pro category. The only Porsche in a top 8 currently littered with Cadillacs and Acuras.
Certainly is. I mean, just look at the pace of that Satellite Racing Teal team. 1.1 seconds ahead of the Precision Racing Esports team, and 4.8 seconds against the battle that we currently watch with Pneumatic Motorsport Blue. And then it's super close between 100 Force, 10-2 Delta SimTech, and CMS Racing Pro. They're all really closely compact here, from third all the way down to 8th on field. But certainly the front two at the moment, as we come to see in the series, starting to sprint away a little bit between the rest of the field, and that's the telling bit for me, really, with that Satellite Racing Teal. They really do manage to get out of the stalls super quick and then just basically put the hammer down from the off in that field. But looking further back as well, the LMDH Ham, SimHQ Motorsport Orange taking a commanding role here. Let's have a look at that replay here.
This is the earlier stages of the race. We're following Stoltz. Unfortunately, from my perspective, there's a quick little spin there. Unfortunately, from my perspective, it's a little bit glitched out on my end, so I'm having my producer Josh give me play-by-play of what happened. So just a quick little spin. Early stages of this race, so just a quick little mistake there. It's not the most unheard of mistake, though, in the world, because, again, these GT cars, while the GTPs and the GT3s are it's so tricky on these tires. Greasy, cold tires. It's a pain in the butt. In real life, we've seen many of the professional drivers in the real world of endurance racing, whether it be in the WEC or whether it be in IMSA here stateside. We've seen plenty of drivers in the past make mistakes here in these cars, and ooh, we got a nice battle forming here. We're following the Obsidian Racing future driver of Antonio Rodriguez, looking to find any way to get past the
Samsung S24 Ultra in a mouse case. Here we go. Oh my God. Absolutely fine on the front. Let's check the back. We're completely fine. Not a scratch on the back. Front is absolutely fine. And MagSafe compatible again this year.
But what does MagSafe compatible mean? Our S24 cases are engineered with 38 magnets in the back.
Just a week and a half after the release of Le Mans Ultimate, we have news of a new endurance-based racing sim. This surprise announcement from the former developers of the WRC games could well change the landscape of the sim racing market, and exciting news as well with potential console use. We are going to be discussing this surprising new announcement on This Week on the
lot of speed, and the LMDH car behind him literally took the corner like a dream, and unfortunately tagged the back end of that of the LMDH car, which caused all that damage on thing. You can just sort of see the damage on the end of that rear of that LMDH car as he's sort of trying to nurse it around, for sure. Let's have a look and see how we managed to get around. Oh, he gets slightly tagged again. I mean, I suppose that's one of the things, isn't it, Ron? You know, when does it become too dangerous to get your car and you should be towing it back to the pits or trying to get it around? I understand why the drivers do try to get it around, because what they're trying to do is mitigate the fact that that tow around here will be around about a minute and a half, and trying to get it back as quick as they can. But yeah, it's a bit of a danger in a rolling roadblock. Certainly when these LMDHs do get a bit of damage, they're certainly a lot slower than the GT3 cars. But looking back in the race at the front, a person who's not having any dramas is a Satellite Racing Teal team of Max Muir leading the way in that gap has come down slightly. It was up to around about 2.3, but you know, it's super tricky for these LMDH drivers to navigate. This is where you want to be overtaking the GT3 cars around the Parabolica, because it's nice open space and you can really use stretch your legs in the LMDH cars and get past them quick. The place you don't want to be getting them is here, where we're seeing Max coming into the Mercedes corner going to be super slow on there, and this is where Precision Racing Esports can actually gain some time back, being Max is going to be caught behind these GT3 cars coming into the stadium section. You can see there around about 6 GT3 cars right in front of Max Muir now as he rides that corner like a pro on the outside. Just gets up on the inside here. Let's have a look at see how he navigates this going into Sachs. Does he try and dive? No, he does the right thing. He just checks it up. There's no point losing the race here this early on. We're only 18 minutes into this race, but it's certainly going to be where do you actually pick up these GT3 cars and that's going to be the telling factor of this race, because I think we'll probably see, Ron, a few more incidents through this race of LMDH cars caught up with the GT3 field.
What's really tricky when it comes to negotiating the lap traffic is, unlike some circuits like Spa, for instance, where if you caught them exiting corner number 1, going through Rouge and Radion and then going down that Camel straightaway, that's a good section to catch up to the lap traffic, because you in the GTP car can just blow the doors off the GT3s going down that back straightaway. But here, there isn't really a long section like that. Of course, you want to hit them going down this back straightaway, going down the Parabolica, but you don't want to hit them coming through corner number 1, because that's not a section that you can really go side by side in, even with a car that is much slower, that is really sketchy in any car going single file, let alone side by side with lap traffic. Turn 2 is a little bit of an okay section, but again, that run coming into turn number 2 is very narrow. That's a very narrow section of this racetrack. As an old school feel to it, much narrower than this section, which is actually part of the drag strip there. You can see the start of it there. Many people that watched some of the, I believe it was 2018, actually no, it was 2019, when the Hockenheim race was in the rain, and that was basically a skating rink. For any drivers that went off there, you have certain sections of the circuit where you definitely want to catch up to that GT3 traffic, but other sections where you just want to avoid it at all costs, and it's really, there's no in-between at all. There's certain sections where it's fantastic, other sections where it's terrible, and it could be 2 in a row, 3 wide, heading into corner number 11 there. 2 prototypes and a GT3. These drivers seem like they do not fear death, even though we're only 20 minutes into this 3-hour race.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I was wondering, Josh, if you could put the track map up just to see where all the cars are currently strewed out on track, and we'll sort of see. You can sort of see the congestion, the heavy congestion there coming, starting probably back from the Mercedes corner all the way round to the first corner now, all the GT3 cars. So what we're looking at is the black are the LMDH Pro cars, the blues are the LMDH amateur cars, the red are the GT3 Pros, and then the greens on track are the GT3 AMs. You can see they're all at the moment sort of coming down the Parabolica in. So got this heavily congested, and as the race progresses further on, as we see the MDH just trying to get up the inside there, the Team Bearpo team managing to get it done, it's going to be screwed out. And further on in the race, when you get it, the LMDH cars are going to have to have eyes in the back of their head, because they're going to be GT3 cars all over the track for them to try and navigate. And that's again where we come back to this team principle within the endurance racing. Is it's vital for your spotters to tell you you're coming up against 4 or 5 GT3 cars. Just hang back a little bit here, because if you try and get too close, you're going to be losing a lot more time. So this is where the spotters, certainly around a track like Hockenheim, with having a lot slower cars that the GT3s on, is to be able to give you advice on when to push, when to hold back a little bit to try and maximize the speed of these LMDH cars on track. Same with the GT3 spotters as well, telling them where the LMDH cars on track. Certainly we saw earlier on a little incident of an LMP as we just watching the Bearport Workers Union, and a great respect there for the LMDH driver, not trying to force his way through turn number 1, losing a little bit of time in the fray, but keeping his car in one paper. The Bearport Union here currently looking back at that Ferrari, lovely sounding car, the Ferrari, looking back at the Bearport Endurance team there in 9th place. We haven't had the best of starts really, considering where they are in the championship. So all again mixed up in that GT3 field, but this is certainly, as you're an LMDH driver, where you want to be overtaking them GT3 cars.
I think while this lap traffic chaos continues, ooh, a big stack up there from one of the Cadillacs who actually got a slight bump there from the Bear Pope Workers Union car currently running in P8. I think we may want to switch our attention to up towards the front of the LMDH category. We have a heads-up fight right now between those two. It's about 0.3 of a second last time I saw, separating P1 and P2 for the overall lead of this race, and there is little to no lap traffic involved in that fight. The next cars are actually some of the GT3s well farther up the road. I believe they're actually going down the back straightaway, or actually entering that hairpin now. So this is a nice fight between Michael Diaz and Max Muir. The Precision Racing Esports team has been in P2 throughout a vast majority of this race. Drive-through penalty for Valhalla Motorsports for avoidable contact. That is not as painful serving a drive-through penalty as we saw in Spa when they had the combined pits, and it was basically like a minute and a half that you'd lose if you picked up a drive-through penalty. It's still going to hurt and sting for that team. We can see a Ferrari off the track. That is the number 17, if I'm not mistaken. Not sure what in the world happened to them. Coming through corner number 6, they're going through the hairpin. Once they hit that curb, maybe spun. They were very slow there. Not sure what in the world happened there, but still, the gap between the front two overall is quite close right now. They are now catching up to that lap traffic. I was wondering, it's going to be a heads-up fight between these two, because after they negotiate some of this lap traffic, they still have a pretty big margin before they catch up to the next round. Pretty much the rest of the field, ooh, very close. Side by side, Michael Diaz is going with that Mercedes at 213, going through Sachs Curve. That is a very bold move, but he got it done cleanly. I think he may have lost a little bit of time, though, there in that lap traffic conundrum. We're following Maurice Thanusen exiting the hairpin, and quick little spin there. The Sim HQ Motorsports white team going for a quick little spin around and trying to keep it off track to not check up the LMDH leaders at this stage of the race. I think now Max Muir, it had to have been some sort of big stack up that he had when negotiating the final cars in that lap traffic that caused that gap to crater, because now, as it's a heads-up fight and really no lap traffic involved, Muir is continuing to pull away.
Yeah, it definitely is. But it's good to see that the Satellite Racing Teal team does have a little bit of competition here with the Precision Racing Esports. We heard with the guys when they come into the booth. This is an exactly reenactment of Spa with these two out in front. You can see the gap between Precision Esports and back to CMSRacing.com Pro. 15.5 seconds to the lead. So, you know, they are a mile off the track, and CMS Racing Pro does have a nice 4-second gap over the Satellite Racing Blue team there back and forth. But, you know, hopefully Precision Racing Esports, I think, I'm trying to recollect what happened to them. I think they were involved in an incident, if I remember, coming down after the Kemmel Straight with a GT3 car that really took them out of the race. So it's going to be interesting to see what Precision Racing Esports can actually do if they manage to keep hold of the coattails, because at the moment they are losing a little bit of time. But I suppose that's the beauty of having these cars with the GT3s on this track, is that it's almost a neutralizer. When you hit the GT3s, you're naturally going to lose a bit of time, so it could bring these two back together. But at the moment the gap is starting to increase. 1.5 seconds out the Satellite Racing 2, the Precision Racing Esports are losing over their competitors. But it's good to see that Satellite Racing Teal have some competition here today at Hockenheim. It's all going to be down, like I said, to who can navigate the GT3 field the best.
And right now we switch our attention to the lead in the LMDH AM category. There's Nolan Kinslow in the Sim HQ Motorsports orange number 16 car trying to negotiate some of the lap traffic here. You can see very hard fought stuff right now. He has a decent lead between himself and the Pneumatic Motorsports purple team, about around 11 seconds actually separating those two teams right now. That's one of the bigger gaps, the biggest gap that we have right now. He's currently holding off some of the LMDH Pro drivers. This is the team FFSR Venom driver of Thomas Sengelboof.
Sorry, Robbie. You're all good, you're all good.
I chose UMass Law because of its commitment to justice and my success as a student and future lawyer.
My professors know me, and I know they're committed
to seeing me succeed in
I mean, we're currently 29 minutes into this race, already done 20 laps of this track, so there's going to be a mountain of laps to actually navigate around to the end of this race. So anything can happen, and we have seen it certainly out in Spa last time out, you know, right at the death. The race was won in many classes. But looking further back down the GT3, there's a bit of a fight between overtake Team White and overtake Team Black, so 3 seconds between them two at the moment, and again, it's all about just trying to keep and maintain your line to be able to make sure you optimize the speed. As we watch the Bearport Endurance team there currently in 8th place, our current leaders in that GT3 Pro. But like I said at the start, there's not really one team in that GT3 Pro and GT3 AM that have really taken it by the scruff of the neck. You've had different winners in each of the opening 3 rounds. Looking back at the GT3 AM, Lunatic Racing, like I said, second and third race really came on, won the second race, came third in the out in Spa. I had that little bit of a disappointing race in Daytona, but again here they are currently leading by nearly 6 seconds over overtake Team Pink, so they're really coming on strong after the disappointments of round 1, so they're really on course to move up in that GT3. Looking further back, there's the team overtake Team Pink and trying to chase down the Lunatic Racing at the moment. 5.9 seconds is the gap. There's pretty much a spread across all the cars, really, Ron. You know, everybody's sort of getting their feet under the table in this race. The gaps are there now, and it's now down to the racing on track to be able to see, can you start putting in and consistent laps. We saw from the Backbone and Einstein team weren't getting the fastest laps on the track, but they were super consistent with what they're doing. The winners out in that GT3 AM in Spa here, driven by Zachary Littlegood. You know, they're consistent at what they do. They put in them lap times. You know, they're almost metronomic about how they put their lap times in. Same lap after lap after lap. You know, it's all very well getting that fastest lap for the one time, but you've got to be consistent in an endurance race. That really pays dividends when it comes into the pit stops. You know, keeping the same lap times after the pit stops, you know, that's how you move up the position and up the leaderboard. And that's what we saw the Backpain and Eye Strain team do last time out at Spa exceptionally well and take that win in that GT3 AM class. So at the moment in third place overall, so a decent place for them to be sat. A bit of a gap between themselves and the Valhalla Motorsport in 4th place there, with the overtake Team Pink in front. So pretty much in no man's land at the moment, just going around trying to keep them lap times consistent.
You mentioned a great point there, Andy. Consistency is key. I believe I once read that in a fortune cookie, but it rings true here in all different sorts of racing, whether it be a sprint race or whether it be a 3-hour enduro like we have on our hands here right now. All these drivers just looking, probably at this stage, eyeing up kind of strategy options to see what in the world happened. Well, to see what in the world their strategy may look like in this race, what in the world has happened so far in this race. Seeing some drivers go off, some drivers come to blows. These drivers realize, hey, 3-hour enduro, we have a lot left to go, still 2.5 hours left to fight for in this race, and there's plenty of teams looking to have some sort of comeback. We're half an hour into this race, over an hour into this broadcast, and we haven't mentioned 100 Force in this race thus far, who have dropped back like a rock. I believe they started this race, well, in 4th. They're now running well farther down. So this is very bizarre from the 100 Force team, just dropping back really bad in terms of pace.
Yeah, currently 11th in that LMDH Pro. After, you know, that excellent third place fight battle in Spa to be going through, but they're currently running around in 11th place. You know, I suppose it's the beauty of this series is the difference of the tracks that you've got. So if we look, Daytona, nice open track, LMDHs will thrive there. You know, the round number 2, her F, you know, a tight, twisty circuit on track to make it super hard to be able to get the passing through. We had Spa, which more suited to the LMDHs, and then you've got this track again. So it's almost like an easy track and a slightly harder track to follow. I mean, next round out, we've got 6 hours around Le Mans, and that's where these cars will be in their own on the track. So 6 hours around that track, they'll be certainly loving that track before we finish up in Silverstone, I believe it is, at the final round, and that shouldn't be too bad for the LMDH cars as well. So a bit of rough with the smooth, but we're currently watching the Penguin RC Simulation Magna team, driven by Blake Reynolds, trying to chase down the Satellite Racing 2 team, driven by Paul Darlin here. So not a lot of a gap between these two at the moment. I think that gap was actually closed up with the Satellite, a little bit of a nudge there by this Penguin team on the Satellite team coming out of the hairpin. I think that was actually closed up by a GT3 car coming around turn number 1, because I did see the Satellite Racing team, blue team, having to check up going around that first corner, which really gave the emphasis on the Penguin RC Simulation team to be able to close that gap. See the gap sort of extending a bit there. I think that's a bit of a reversal there, where Paul Darlin, the Satellite Racing team 2, got a better pass on the GT3 car coming through Mercedes, and the Penguin RC Simulation team losing a little bit of ground. But here we go again, you know, being held up slightly, so that gap will come down, and as long as the Penguin RC Simulation can get around this Mercedes on the inside, which you should be able to do, that gap will come down. And this is what we're saying about this track, is the concertina effect with the GT3 cars in front. It's easy to gain and lose time, and this is where it's vital that where the passing moves are done for these LMDH cars, the spotter plays a really big part, certainly in rounds like this.
There is a lot that these drivers have to keep their eyes on. Lap traffic is one of them, fuel management is one of them, tire management as well in the GT3 cars. We harped on this a lot during the Spa broadcast about how the drivers were only allowed, I believe it was 1 tire change throughout that entire 4-hour race. And here at Hockenheim, tire management, we mentioned that at the start, this track, not a whole lot of retrieval on these tires at all. This is really the first big straightaway on the lap, and it's just a quick low blast, especially in these GTP cars. It's basically over in the span of less than 10 seconds, but those GT3 cars really like it. The tires love it, just because, hey, I can finally take a rest. I don't have to worry about I don't have to worry about having any force on me, having to turn, and then they go into turn number 7 and the tires are just screaming in pain. So tire management is going to be super key in this race. There's just so much strategy involved that can decide these races, but there's also a lot of chaos that may play its hand in deciding how these drivers finish this race. If I remember correctly, at Spa, it was the overtake team that was really in command of that race from start to finish. Then we got into the midsection of the race when drivers were thinking on strategy, and incidents started piling up as these drivers began to get a little bit tired and fatigued, and then the whole complexion of the race, 4 wide coming out of turn number 10, good lord, and going side by side into corner number 11. This is Antonio Rodriguez, who we were following earlier, going side by side here and nearly beating trading wheels with the BMW that he was going side by side with. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the Overtake Team Blue team, if I'm not mistaken. We'll take a look at a replay here of Antonio Rodriguez going side by side and racing very hard.
Yeah, it certainly was. Sort of almost got boxed in there, didn't they? Coming out of that corner, they got a really good run. Just pushes slightly out of the car 21 there. The Overtake Team Blue loses out and loses a position due to be pushed out through Mobile 1. And Obsidian Racing Future, you know, a great couple of positions made there, and good respect from the rest of the field to basically get out of his way. But Antonio Rodriguez up to P15th at the moment in that BMW. Coming out onto Parabolica again, and you can just see a massive string of GT3 cars. Every single shot, an LMDH is actually trying to overtake a GT3 car. But I think this is the point of the race now where they're going to be strewn all over the track, the GT3 cars, and you're not going to have one not in a picture or fighting a battle with an LMDH car trying to overtake. And this is where the GT3s have really got to give the respect to the LMDHs as well. They've got to give the respect to GT3s because they're almost like pushing their way through on certain corners. We're coming down here into Mobile 1, you know, and this is a part where I'm imagining the LMDH drivers will be getting a little bit frustrated with the lack of speed. I mean, we can see here they're closing up the gap. You can see the GT3 cars just at the front of this pack that we're watching now, holding up this big train of LMDH cars coming out through turn number 15, coming through the Sudcurve 16, and then they'll fire past them up this start-finish straight. But you really don't want to be caught here coming into turn number 1, which I think the driver we're just watching might just be looking on the inside but thinking better of it, just tucks in behind the GT3 car there. I think that's a lunatic flashing his lights saying, you know, give me a bit of respect here, as the big stream of the LMDH cars just comes firing through. But quick shout out on the YouTube chat to Dave Williams, who's shouting out for his satellite racing boys there. He's unfortunately not able to race today, but certainly watching and spectating on there. At the moment, your guys are currently
Oh hey, with Zeem you can stream free local TV from all
about 125. So oh, as we see a little bit of a cut between one of the portions of around 10-15 now. I'm sure we'll get a replay of it, but again. See it as any of your faults. So great illustration of these LMDH cars just trying to dive down the inside. And I suppose as this race goes on, Ron, you might see that a lot more. These LMDHs are trying to get the position, certainly in the last hour of this race.
Yeah, we'll see a lot of these drivers breaking their elbows out. We've seen drivers breaking their elbows out already, beating and banging and roughing each other up, and also with the fantastic saves that we've seen all throughout this race. I still can't get over the save that we saw not very long ago coming through turn number 11. Oh my God, and we've got another crash. Coming into corner number 1, that is Sohn, who was running up in a decent position. It says that he's first in GT3 Pro, but the Mega RC Simulation Carbon team going for a quick little spin there. I think, was that a rear wing or was that just in my iRacing playing tricks on me? I definitely saw there's a lot of damage on those cars. That is for darn sure. That was pretty hard contact. Right as I was looking at my live timing screen, I got distracted and saw that coming together just in the corner of my eye. We'll take a look at a replay to see what in the world happened here. Heading into corner number 1, I think this may be a slight little miscommunication with some of these drivers. And, ooh, actually, no. Sohn there in the Penguin RC Simulation Carbon car. Just, I think he braked a little bit through that corner, maybe on a different strategy, on cold tire, well, on not very grippy tires, and that was maybe the reason why he had to check up coming into corner number 1, and sadly for him, just got completely pile-driven by the car right behind. That's an unfortunate incident. Again, miscommunications. We saw that with that GT3 and prototype incident entering the pits not very long ago. We're seeing it again. This is the Overtake Team Blue car going slowly between turns 10 and 11. We'll take a look at a replay of that incident. Yet again, he picked up damage in that, I think, front end damage for this car. Yeah, that was unnecessary, I would have to say, about 45 minutes into this race, but not sure what in the world happened there. I think that was just a plain miscommunication.
Yeah, I don't know why the car in front of Penguin RC car was going so slow around turn number 1. I think he really caught off Craig Townsend and the Overtake Blue team going into the back of him. So I don't think that was anything to do with the Overtake Team Blue team of Craig Townsend. I think it's really strange why the Penguin RC Simulation was going so slow into turn number 1. It really caught him out, but certainly had the damage. Let's have a look.
They missed their pit box there a little bit. The fast repairs are very important there because if you use on the pit stop, we mentioned this at Spa because we did see it. Some of those drivers took a fast repair early on and then didn't have it when they actually needed it the most. Thankfully for the Penguin RC Simulation Carbon team, they did not use that fast repair earlier. They have used that now, and they're back out on track. Only 31 seconds spent in pit lane. So again, very short pit lane here at the Hockenheimring, much shorter compared to what we saw at Spa about a month ago. And thankfully for them, they did have that fast repair at their disposal. It probably would have been a very long hold if they had to fix that suspension damage as well, because I saw a little bit of crabbing in that car as well.
Yeah, VCDM on the YouTube channel says it's about 15 seconds to get through this Hockenheim, so I believe that is probably the shortest one we've got. So one of the things I'm thinking of is Brian might have got a slowdown off that last corner. If he went a little bit too wide on the outside, he probably got a slowdown off it. He was trying to bleed it off going through the first corner, but unfortunately it's a super fast corner. That could have been what happened there with Brian sort of almost coming down the gears, the fourth gear on what is normally a super fast corner. I wonder if we can just ride on board with Antonio. He's coming around, where's he going? Coming around to the section just to see what sort of, under normal circumstances, what is the speed and what gear these cars go around that first corner. I'd imagine it's probably fifth gear, pretty high revs, and the only thing I can think of there in that incident is probably it was a slowdown going too wide around this part of the section of track to be able to. Are we going to be able to see full speed? Wow! Oh, okay, he comes down to fourth and he went down for a bar. I suppose he was caught up a lot on track, but that was threading the needle.
Yeah, that was very hard racing with that lap traffic involved. They're going 3 wide going down that start-finish straightaway. Had to drop down into fourth gear, but justifiably so. On that theory of him serving a slowdown penalty, that would be fairly reckless, if I'm being honest, to serve a slowdown penalty in that way, but still we're looking at Antonio Rodriguez. He has been the star of the show so far. He's been involved in many hard-stopping moments, this being one of them, trying to get the move done around the outside. Does it beautifully there. I don't think he picked up a slowdown or even an off-track incident point there, so beautifully well done there from Antonio Rodriguez, coming through one to get that move done to move into P12 in class. That was a big stack up there. We're following Michael Parker, who is now behind that fight, just exited the pits with the Pneumatic Motorsports blue team currently running P15, down 12 positions from where they started. So we haven't touched on this team. I believe that's the first time we've looked at them all throughout this broadcast. So not a very good race from them thus far. Not a good run from Chris Broad coming through the Mobile 1 curve as he's lost out on that spot to Rodriguez now, and now he's trying to challenge with a fellow Porsche going side by side coming through the Sachs curve. This lap traffic playing a big role in this race. I believe that's a Bear Hope Workers Union car, the Ferrari, acting as a bit of a pick in this battle currently. We're following Thomas Siros in P13 right now, up 1 spot in the Mecca Esport car, and we'll see, maybe he might go for a move here as we see some more incidents under review. That's a big puff of smoke there. Who was that? That went for a quick little spin there coming through turn 1. I'm not sure who that was. We may have to take a look at a replay to see who that was. Maybe it was Rodriguez having a big snap like he had earlier on in the race. I could see it was a pack of cars swarming around like a pack of hornets with GT3 cars. Small little defenseless children trying to hoard off those hornets as they went through turns 2 and 3 and 4. I saw that in the back of the shot. 7 cars still. You can see a big pack of prototypes right behind Antonio Rodriguez as he goes through the hairpin this time by. This is absolute chaos here in this race. We're not even an hour in. I mean, granted, an hour is a third of the way into this race, but still, we have about 2 hours, over 2 hours left to go, and all these drivers are still driving so aggressive. I mean, it's great to see here in the commentary booth because we love to see aggressive driving, but I'm sure some of these drivers may be getting a little bit annoyed with their competitors.
Yeah, it definitely is. But just looking further down the field then at the GT3 Pro class, the overtake team there got Team White and Black in first and second. I'm not sure why a LMDH Pro is currently topping it and 2 laps ahead, which is probably about right for the LMDH. But currently the overtake Team White team with the overtake sister team, Team Black, in second place. You can see there Scott, your D's Porsche Round 5 Duke team, the Porsche, top Porsche in 5th place at the moment. Just having a look at the gap, around about 10 seconds behind the Delta Simtech 144 Audi in 3rd place at the moment. So going around nicely in 5th place. Looking further down then to the GT3 AM, we do have Lunatic Racing leading the way at the moment. Currently in 1st place, 6.3 seconds, so maintaining that gap over the overtake Team Pink car, who has remained in 2nd place, the Mercedes there, 6.3 seconds, who has a 6-second gap over, I think that Fendi Racing Team White, if I remember rightly from the start. Yes, Team White is a pro team, so they're in, where are they? Let's have a look where they are. Timing Tower. They are currently 8th in pro category. The Fendi Racing Team White, that's showing unfortunately on the GT3 AM field there. So the overtake Team Pink do have a sizable 16-second lead over the 3rd place Valhalla Motorsport team there in the Ferrari in that GT3 AM, as we see one of the LADH is going a little bit wide at the overtake over the Lunatic, staying extremely wide for these LMDH cars to get through, maximising the speed or the loss in speed. As you see a drive-through penalty if you overtake the Team Blue there for avoidable contact. They are just trying to see where they are. Passing it over to the Team Blue, just looking down. They are in LMDH, I believe. So a lot of these LMDH drivers are getting drive-through penalties, just trying to get through. Is again, Ron, is hitting the GT3 cars at the wrong point, putting their car in a position that's almost compromising the 2 cars and having avoidable contact on there. And that's I suppose that's one of the highlights of this, certainly this round, the narrowing of the track going into the stadium section. It seems to be causing a little bit of an issue between the LMDH drivers trying to safely overtake the GT3 cars. We're currently watching the Bear Pulp Endurance there, driven by Carl Sketchley in 8th place. Not having the best day are the Bear Pulp Endurance team, the leaders of the GT3 Pro category. Again, I suppose it's good for the points there, Ron, is that you've got a lot of teams like the overtake Team White and overtake Team Black currently at the head of the GT3 Pro field that will be gaining valuable points, which makes that class even more competitive going into the final 2 rounds.
Yeah, the points are a big factor in this race. We are officially halfway through this season, so I gotta imagine with a lot of these drivers that are focusing so much on the championship, they're focusing on the bigger picture. Of course, it won't be until April 28th when we decide the champion, when the final race of the season comes at Silverstone, but there's still a lot left to be decided. One thing as well that could be decided here, the Satellite Racing Teal team has dropped back like a rock, 18.5 seconds back of the Precision Racing Esports Acura there at the front of the LMDH Pro category. Their streak of winning every single race so far this season could be snapped at 3. Jesse Lyon right now in that car, down 1 position. It was dominant when Max Muir was in that car, and now he is trying to negotiate that lap traffic. Nearly got hit by the Porsche right behind. I believe that was the Pneumatic Motorsports purple car that he nearly made contact with as they went through the hairpin. But still, Jesse Lyon right now on the back foot. Of course, strategy playing a role in that. That's part of the reason why the Precision Racing Esports team got it in front of them in the first place. But I wonder, will Jesse Lyon start to risk it a little bit more as Michael Diaz is in a hornet's nest of his own trying to go through all of this lap traffic? Will Jesse Lyon and that Satellite Racing Team TL team try and risk it a little bit more? Will they be a bit more aggressive? They have a decent gap in that championship, so I think they can afford to risk it. If they're going for all-out glory and trying to go for that win, I think they may have to push a lot more when it comes to dealing with that lap traffic to try and reel in that gap.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm just having a look down at the points for the GT3 Pro at the moment. So obviously, Bear Pope Enduro currently in 8th place. They're leading the way on 90 points. The D's Porsche Ren 500 team in 2nd place on 89 1 points. They're currently going around in 5th place. Then you got Overtake Team White and Team Black, who are 3rd and 4th in the championship at the moment. 4 points behind the D's Porsche team and 5 points behind the Bear Pope Endurance team. So this will be some vital points that could possibly move Overtake Team White and Team Black up the standings to sort of overtake the D's Porsche Ren 500 team in 2nd, and the Bear Pope Enduro, who seem to be struggling at the moment. They're down in 8th or 7th place, because that Penguin RC Simulation carbon car is still there, in 7th place overall. So our current leaders of the GT3 class are struggling a little bit here in Hockenheimring. I wouldn't have thought so, being the Mercedes, because Mercedes is normally quite good around this track. So, but certainly struggling here today, as you can see them just behind the Overtake Team Grey team, who will probably try and hold them up as much as they can to do their little bit for the Overtake team overall. Looking further back in the GT3 AMS then, so currently Lunatic Racing currently sitting 3rd in the championship on 82 points, 5 points behind the CMS.com Endurance team. Just looking to see where they are. They are currently 7th in that GT3 AM class, so they've possibly losing a little bit of points there overall. And Long Haul Racing Team 2, who's in 2nd, they're currently behind the CMS Racing.com Endurance team in P8th overall. So this could be a good day for Lunatic Racing to sort of mitigate that earlier first round disappointment probably for them in Daytona, finishing 16th overall in their class. But since then they've gone on strides, winning the 2nd race, come in 2nd in Spa last time out, and currently winning this one at the moment. But like we said, it's only an hour. We literally just tipped over the hour. They've got 2 hours left of racing in here, so it's still, anything can happen. We've seen how tight it is on track, and we've seen how sort of hard it is for these LMDHs and GT3s to get their positioning on track, so they don't try and lose too much time. But at the moment, Lunatic Racing, you can see there, have lost a mountain of time. They had a 6.3 second lead. That is evaporated in about 2 laps to overtake Team Pink there, 0.2 of a second down. They could be having a look here down into the hairpin, literally tucked under the rear wing of that Audi. Are they going to shoot out to try and take that inside lap? No, they're not. They're going to buy their time, probably saving a little bit of fuel. Looking down the inside, that's a bit right from Lunatic Racing. Opens the door for the overtake Team Pink, and they say thank you very much. This is a drag now down into the Mercedes complex. Side by side coming in as Lunatic Racing. Can they keep that inside lap? No, they lose out, just sucking behind the overtake Team Pink. And that's how quickly leads in this race can evaporate. It's 6.8 seconds about 2 laps ago, down to 2nd place Lunatic Racing.
That was a big mistake, and I gotta imagine the reason why we saw the mistake from Lunatic Racing was just because of the pressure they were feeling. As you said, Andy, that gap evaporated. They were leading fairly comfortably in the class ever since the start of the race, but as soon as the overtake Team Pink car got within a half a second of them, they just overshot it there. I think maybe a little bit of target fixation with that Porsche right in front of them caused them to run wide, and you can see now the drag race as they exited the hairpin the last time by going into 7. Daniel Ash there in the overtake Team Pink car had that inside line and was able to get the move done, clearing them before they went on the brakes into turn 8 there. But a quick low mistake there, a small low mistake. It's marginal in the grand scheme of things, but there it just cost them the lead.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm just looking where overtake Team Pinks are in the standings at the moment. They're mid-table same again, they had pretty much a bad race at Daytona. 24 points scored out in Jerez, and then came third in Spa last week. So they're certainly a team on the up and up. So it's going to be a good race, I think, between these two teams, the Overtake Team Pink here and the Lunatic Racing in the first and second in that GT3. And you can see the gap now between Lunatic Racing and all the way back to Long Haul Racing in third place. So at the moment, it's around about 20 seconds is the gap. So these two well and truly out front. But we've just seen how quickly you can lose that time in this race. Certainly if you start battling each other and get caught up in LMDH melee, should we say. So that time it can look down. But Lunatic Racing at the moment, with it at the helm, they're still managing to get through. We look at overtake Team Grey, they're in 8th place, managed to be overtaken there by Bear Pope Endurance, moving up to 6th place overall in that GT3. So trying to just claw back some vital points to try and keep themselves in the hunt for this GT3 Pro field that we see there. I think that is the Satellite Racing Teal blue team there, still having a really good fight with the, I think this is the 10-2 Delta Syntec Cruise. No, it's not. It's the CMS.com Pro team. I'm mistaken there between them two. But Carl Sketchley at the moment currently 6th in the GT3 Pro. But like we said, only a third of this race done. We've still got 2/3 to go. Lots of action to be had, and obviously pit stop strategies to come into effect. As we see there, if we look, Precision Racing Esports went into the pits early, did under fuel for that first stint, hence why they managed to get in front of the Satellite Racing Team 2 to begin with. So now have come in, so it's going to be interesting their strategy, Ron. They are completely out of sync to the rest of the LMDH field. That's quite early on, so it's around about 40 minutes was when we saw the Satellite Racing Team come in. That's pretty much only 20 minutes, so they only put in, and they are stationary for a very long time. So who's gone into that car? Do they have a change driver? Yes, they do. Riley Connor is at the helm of that car, so let's see where we come at the end round and see if that pit stop strategy was a stroke of genius or it was a big mistake.
I'm honestly not sure how to feel about the strategy call from them. They're a little bit farther back in the championship standings right now, outside the top 10 in points on only 55, compared to Satellite Racing Teal team that's actually 50 points ahead of them. So I can understand why they'd want to try something different, because they're like, hey, if we want to try and claw up through the field, we need to get race wins. But I think if they went for the normal strategy and just did what everyone else was doing, they would probably be in a very good shot of finishing on the podium, definitely in P2. But you can see now, ooh, that is a big moment in this race. Drive-through penalty or Satellite Racing Teal team for avoidable contact, and a stern warning to overtake Team Black for car control there. So a very interesting penalty, a message I've never seen in my time broadcasting here on Apex for exactly 1 year. It was a year ago today I did my first broadcast here on Apex Racing TV, so yippee for me. Don't throw any sort of celebration for that fact, but that's a very strange penalty that Craig Townsend got for the overtake team. Not really sure why they picked up a penalty for car control. I think actually our producer Josh is saying the reason why that penalty was yielded to him was because of the incident that he had going into turn number 1 not very long ago when he rear-ended the Penguin RC Simulation. I believe it was the Penguin RC Simulation Carbon team, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been the I'm trying to think now. There's been a lot to go on in this race. My brain is already frazzled. But speaking of Penguin RC Simulation, they're currently running second with a Magma car, currently 17.9 seconds behind Satellite Racing Teal team. So we'll see how things shake up. It's only 2 incident points so far compared to Satellite Racing Teal's 13 incidents. You can see a lot of drivers, both Satellite Racing teams at 13 incident points in this race thus far. Tenuto Delta Simtech at only 1. That is honestly quite impressive. An hour and 10 into this race, but here's Jesse Lyon coming in. And right as I was saying that I was not sure how to feel about the Precision Racing Esports team going for this interesting strategy. If they're on the same strategy, they would be leading now. This is a very short run down the pit lane. It's going to be close between them and the Penguin RC Simulation team. Has the gap decreased? I believe, or the live timing sure is just taking a little bit to actually update there, but still pretty close stuff there, but still they have held on to that position, so a little bit impressive. The fact that they had that big of a gap, that they served that slowdown penalty. 15 seconds it was said in the YouTube chat that it takes to trundle down the pits here. Hopefully they didn't speed. That would be just the worst kind of icing on top of the worst kind of cake you can ever have. Blake Reynolds, though, in that Penguin RC Simulation Magnet team, up 6 positions from where they started. Quite impressive thus far, but will he be trying to size up any sort of way to close that gap? This is the smallest gap we've seen at the front of the LMDH Pro category for quite some time, so maybe at this stage Blake Reynolds is like, hey, this is our big shot, let's push, and let's try and push these guys into some sort of mistake. Meanwhile, in the GT3 Pros, we're seeing some hard battling here. This is Marcus Belenda on the outside. We got a move done here. That is, I believe, one of the GT3 AMs, so there's some interclass mingling. As you can see, a massive train of cars there. That's probably about 15 cars in one shot. They're going side by side. Meanwhile, we've got a prototype doing nearly a pass in the grass, pass off the track there as these drivers try to negotiate this GT3 traffic. We've only seen one pass in the grass so far, which is a little bit shocking. It probably won't be the last in this race. We're riding on board with Marius Belenda. I call him Marcus for some reason, but in the overtake team gray car, down 2 positions from where they started, currently running P8. Actually, no, it would be P7 in the category, thanks to the Penguin RC Simulation being marked in GT3 Pro. Hopefully we'll be able to fix that for you between now and the end of this race, but currently running P7 in the category, trying to find any way in the book to get past some of these drivers and just waiting for the GTPs to negotiate all of them.
Yeah, what you were saying that I've done some mathematications of pit stop strategies for these LMDHs. So I've just worked out it's around about 40 minutes these cars are coming in. So each of the LMD cars will have to do 4 stops plus 1 20-minute stop. So I think what Precision Racing have done is back to front. They've done their quick sort of 20-minute stop at the beginning of the race, and now they're going to be doing full stint refueling stations during the rest of them, where the rest of them will be coming in on their last one for just enough fuel, like the 27 seconds one we saw from the Precision Racing at the first one. So they've just, I think what they've done is just flip the strategy on its head, in that they've done a short stint to begin with to get that lead. Going there for overtake Team Grey, coming out, losing another position there to the car 405. I don't think that is a position, but that is an AM category driver just managing to get ahead of the pro driver there. So yeah, I think what they've done is they've just flipped it on the head to try and utilise the fact that at the moment, get the lower fuel in there, try and get that lead in the bag, and then try and maintain it through the race. But it's going to be interesting to see now what the Precision Motorsport team are able to do for the rest. They're going to have to refuel to the maximum on the last one, where everyone else will be doing the short stints.
That, I think, is it makes a lot more sense, because I was wondering if they're doing just 20-minute stints, that would not be the smartest move in the world for the drivers. Going for that flip strategy, shall we call it, in the LMDH Pro category. But I have a feeling that it may end the same way that we saw the GT3 Pro battle end at the end of Spa, where we're seeing drivers run out of fuel in the dying stages. Fuel saving will be a big role just to actually make the checkered flag. In these timed races, there's not a set limit. Of course, you do have that time, but if that driver crosses the line, it's a matter of seconds that can separate it between when the checkered flag is coming out. So if one of these drivers, if the, let's say the Satellite Racing Teal team, crosses that line with 1 second left on the clock, will add another lap. So these drivers need to focus. They need to have at least a couple extra laps of fuel if they want to feel safe in that late stint. And we saw drivers get that wrong, get that miscalculation, screwed up their race in a big way at the end of Spa. So a little bit of mathematicians, as you call it there, Andy, will play a big role in how this race is decided. The Pneumatic Motorsports Purple team is now pulled into the pits. That's John Taylor Tamey here, currently running a P2, up 2 spots from where he started. It's fairly spread out across all the classes right now, besides the LMDH Pro category, and GT3 AM, I should say. That's a 1/6 of a second gap between the Lunatic Racing and the Overtake Team Pink team, so they've been battling quite a lot over the past half hour now. But the LMDH AM gaps are pretty big. I mean, I think we saw it in Spa. That was a fairly not hard-fought fight that we saw in LMDH and Pneumatic Motorsports. It may be in contention. We'll see they're exiting the pits right now. Somewhat of a slower stop, though. You can see you're going to hit about 50 seconds now. So 51.1 they spent in the pit lane, which is actually a little bit shorter, actually quite a decent amount shorter than Sim HQ Motorsports Orange and the Accent Racing LMDH teams right in front of them, but still they're quite a long ways back from that leader, so they're going to have to be in hustle mode if they want to stay on this lead lap and really have their chances of winning this race stay alive.
Yeah, it is, and a big thank you for the title sponsor of this series, Penguin RC Simulation. They create high-performance driving accessories at reasonable cost at Penguin RC Simulation. They produce wheel and button boxes along with specialised equipment such as e-stops for direct drive hardware and iFlag systems. Go and have a look over at www.penguinrc.com for what they can to you to enhance your driving experience, as we are currently riding around with Blake Reynolds of Penguin RC Simulation Magna. They're in second place at the moment. They have only done one stop, so I think the only teams that have done the two stops are the Precision Racing Esports and the 100 Force have actually come in for their second stops, whether that's a second stop due to fueling or if it's some other mechanical issues, but we certainly know that the Precision Racing Esports there. But 100 Force not having the best day at the office for them, considering where they've been in the last couple of races. Currently riding around in P9th at the moment. A solitary P9th if we have a look at the time in tower there. He's got about 15 seconds of the Sim HQ Motorsport Reds behind. And around 6 seconds to the team FFSR Venom there in 8th place. So not the best day at the office there for the 100 Force, but like we said, anything can happen in the endurance races, so you've got to be in it to win it. So still keep going around at the same speed, down 5 positions from where they started this race. So not the result really they wanted to, but still looking at a deep lunge on the inside there. As we see another thing of the GT3 slowing up the LMDH in front of him. He's flashing his lights. I don't think there's anything that the LMDH driver could have done with slowing down for that GT3 car. But 100 Force with Nicholas Maynard is there driving around in P9. Looking back now at Pneumatic Motorsport Blue Team with Michael Parker in, currently in 14th. In that car in the Porsche. It certainly is a story of two halves, isn't it, really, in the car classifications in that LMDH, with the top one certainly being dominated by the Cadillac, the top 4 in the LMDH Cadillac. Then you've got Acuras, and then the first Porsche in that Pro category is in P8 for the team FFSR Venom, whereas you look down at the AMS, and it's sort of dominated by the Porsche. You have got a Cadillac currently in second place in the AMS with a Center Racing LMDH driven by Josh Stoltz currently in there, but dominated by the two different classes by Cadillac and Porsche in the AMS. But currently looking there at there's Josh Stoltz, the top Cadillac driver in the AM field, the odd one out, should we say, in that Anfield. One Cadillac mixed in with about 5 different Porsches in that top 5 in there, as we watch Dylan Baxter of TRF Motorsports coming out in P10th. Overall, just got into that car, I believe, trundling him on, and we look back at one of the GT3s, Aaron Mayers, Valhalla Motorsports in P13th at the moment. Just having a look at. So that is his second stop. So there's a lot of drivers in that GT3 field that still need to stop. So he'll probably find himself moving up the order once the second round of pit stops are done in that GT3 car. But I don't know, Ron, which car, GT3 car, would you say would be more suited to this Hockenheim circuit?
That is a very good question. I think in terms of driver enjoyment from my perspective, I would be in the Ferrari just for the simple sake that I'd love to hear that engine sound throughout an entire stint. But in terms of comfort, I have to agree with Lunatic Racing and their pick to be in the Audi as we're taking a look at a replay of the Lunatic Racing entry. I was going to say that the Audi is fairly stable, and oh my god, you can see, yeah, that was a big stack up as they went through the Mercedes arena there, and that was Nick McLaughlin trying to avoid making contact with a GTP that was trying to negotiate with him. But that Audi is fairly stable. I've talked to Charles Michel on a lot of the broadcasts I've done in both the S1 Racing GT3 Sprint Series here on Apex Racing TV every other Wednesday, as well as Array Esports, and he is actually one of the team owners of Olympus Esports, so he has a lot of experience with that, and he always said, hey, the Audi is a very stable race car. Unless you step massively over the limit, you're fairly comfortable in that Audi. So I think maybe at a track like this where you have a lot of turns, a lot of bends, a lot of chances to have some sort of screw up, I think maybe the Audi would be my choice, because I am an absolutely terrible GT3 driver, and I think that would be my pick. The Satellite Racing Teal team is in the pits. Max Muir is back in that car after a brief stint from their other driver, and Muir getting into the car fairly quickly after he got out of it, so it was only one quick little stint there. So this is an interesting driver strategy from the Sim Racing Satellite Racing Teal team. What do you make of this strategy call in terms of the driver situation at that team, Andy?
Well, we know that Max is a super quick driver. He's probably the quickest out of the two drivers that are here today. So it sort of makes sense to get Max into the car so he can close down this lead that Precision Racing Esports have got. And obviously the reason we know why they've got that is the pit stop strategy that they're doing different. We see Paul Darling there still remaining in that Satellite Racing Blue team. Is the difference in strategies they got. So, you know, what we're seeing is they should be doing 40, 40, 40, and then a 20, around about a 20-minute stop at the end. Whereas the Precision Racing Esports has flipped that, did the small 20 in the first stop, and now gone back onto the 40 minutes. So, but the Precision Racing Esports did extend that lead during that stint that we had Jesse in the car. So Jesse probably is slightly a little bit slower than the Precision Racing Sports. So it makes sense that Max does actually get back into that seat to try and limit that gap. There we see front end of that Ferrari will be sounding even more beefier with no hood on it, being sort of taken off, but will be compromising his straight line speed, I would imagine, there in the core. But it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, we saw last time out Precision Racing in Spa. It was their first event, and they were super competitive. They were right on Satellite Racing Teal's behind for the majority of the first stint. And like I said, an incident coming around the end of the Kemmel Straight got involved, unfortunately, in a battle between two GT3 cars. An innocent bystander really put paid to his race. Now we're seeing him that he's had an incident-free race so far, touch wood. So it's going to be interesting to see how close come the end stint they are, or vice versa. The Satellite Racing Teal are behind the Precision Racing Esports team. It's going to be an interesting end to what was a dominated class from the Satellite Racing Teal team. So they've certainly got a little bit of competition here in Hockenheim, and it's going to be interesting to see what comes about at the end of the tape. Just talking about earlier on where we saw that replay from Lunatic Racing, that was the overtake move for Lunatic Racing to get back in front of that overtake Team Pink. Overtake Team Pink got enthralled in with an LMDH issue, lost the lead that they had, and Lunatic Racing was able to get the pass move done. But you can sort of see on the timing tower in that handbell overtake Team Pink. As I say, that literally just overtake, and the Lunatic super close. I wonder if you could just go to that battle there, Josh, between Lunatic Racing and overtake Team Pink. They are having a right ding-dong battle between the two of them on track at the moment, literally just trading blows. You can see there's Lunatic and the Mercedes just at the back there, just out of shot is the overtake Team Pink there, just going through on the cars. It's a really good battle in that and between these two. These two are certainly a class above the rest of them at the moment. Does have his teammate in between him, but there's quite a lot of action here with the LMDH cars getting involved. Ooh, there. It's get through nice and simple, but you see the gap there between Lunatic, and that's how quickly the gaps can sort of extend to 6 seconds at the moment. I'm sure I'll get Constantina back in place once the field adjusts themselves, and obviously the LMDH is trying to get past Lunatic Racing, maybe compromising his lines a few bits, but certainly a big battle, and these two cars are the class above in that GT3 AM at the moment. Lunatic Racing leading out at the moment, but only by 1.5 seconds.
That was a massive moment there as they went through the stadium section for the Overtake Team Pink driver. Daniel Ash cut in front of an Acura. I'm not sure who that was in the GTP Acura as they had the GTP traffic all around them last lap, well, towards the end of last lap. That was very close there for Daniel Ash. If he broke just a little bit earlier, that Acura GTP right behind him would have hit him right in his ash. That is for darn sure. So he's up one position right now, still involved in that fight, but because of that lap traffic, he has actually dropped back just a tiny bit, 1.4 seconds, separating those drivers currently, and they have a massive gap between themselves and the Longhorn Racing Team in P number 3 right now, 20 seconds back. So they are in a fight of their own currently, trying to find any way they can. Sorry, I'm choking on my drink here as they're trying to find any sort of way to pull up that gap and overtake Team Pink. Is trying to find some sort of chance to overtake their teammate. The Overtake Team White car is acting like a little bit of a roadblock right now, although I say that they're not in the position to just let the team car by because they don't have a big gap between themselves and the really slow motion racing entry currently running P4 in the GT3 Pro category. That's not a big gap separating those two teams, so I think the Overtake Team White car is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can see right at the tail end of that shot being overtaken by one of the GTPs is a really slow motion racing team car, the Porsche, at the tail end of the shot now. So Overtake Team White, they're stuck in a rock and a hard place because they don't want to let their teammate by, but they don't want to hold them up because if they let their teammate by, they're going to lose out on spots. But if they hold their teammate up, they're going to let their teammates, a main rival in this race, just drive off into the distance. I feel bad for the strategy team at Overtake Team White right now because they're really, again, I said about 5 times in the span of about 30 seconds, they are stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, it definitely is, but I suppose the other side of it is that they're getting a good, decent amount of slipstream off their pro team, Team White, the Team Pink behind the drivers. So, you know, we've seen the gap is not massive, it's only 1.5 seconds. They had a lead, Lunatic Racing, of 6.5. Obviously made a mistake there, a little bit of a lunge for the MBH there, back on the Porsche, Ferrari, on track. So basically, yeah, it's not an insurmountable gap. The gap is going up to 1.7, but it's manageable. But Nick at the moment is in the right place, back out in front. A little bit of a wiggle there going through Sachs for Nick on that lap, but at the moment in a good position. But I think he certainly feels like he's in a battle. We saw the slight error he made going down into the hairpin, which lost him that first place overall. But certainly the Overtake Team Pink at the moment, certainly racy in there and giving the Lunatic Racing guys something to play for in this round. But just looking a little bit further down, looking at the Bearport Endurance team, currently in 6th place overall. Oh, we've got a replay here. Let's have a look at what this Axel Racing MDH. They're coming around here, the final corner, losing the back end. Losing quite well, no damage, just a little bit of pride dent there for the El there of in 3rd place in that LMDH, losing a bit of time there. 5 seconds now is the gap between them and Team Break Fade in 4th place. Lost a lot of time. I don't think, to be honest, they could probably catch the Pneumatic Motorsport purple team out in front of the SimHQ orange team. So, you know, overall, not too much of an issue having that, but would have done some wear on that tyre by losing the back end there. But yeah, so that's where we are on that. Let's have a look further back. So Team Bearport Endurance are currently leaders in the GT3 Pro, trying to get their way back through the field. Currently in 6th place, chasing down the D's Porsche Renfire Jug team in front. We see a drive-through penalty for Overtake Team Pink for avoidable contact So that is big news in that GT3 battle with the Overtake Team Pink there, getting a drive-through penalty. That could have been the incident that we saw earlier on coming through the Mercedes complex, but they've now got a drive-through penalty that they'll be kicking in themselves. They serve it straight away, but that racing off the hook. Let's have a look at the gap where when they come out to see how much time it is for losing. So they're 1.7 seconds behind the Lunatic Racing team. It's going to be around about, I reckon around about 20 seconds is going to be the gap between themselves. Let's have a look. So it's 13, so around about 12 seconds. So the prediction from BCBM in 15 seconds is bang on there. So big day at the office now for Overtake Team Pink to try and claw back that. That's exactly what they didn't want, but it's exactly what Lunatic Racing needed.
That is going to take a big amount of pressure off the back of Lunatic Racing's shoulders. That is for darn sure. Now he is locked tight in a big pack. We're seeing Nick McLaughlin now with no cars around him. He only has one of the other GT3 pros right behind him, but he's pulling away from that car slowly but surely. He's now got a GTP who nearly made contact with the driver right behind. That was very close between those two cars, interclass mingling. I'm surprised we haven't seen a big accident involving some of these GTPs overtaking some of the GT3s. Meanwhile, Daniel Ash in a much more uncomfortable position right now. He's got one of the Bear Hope racing cars. I believe that's a Bear Hope Enduro team stuck behind him in the Mercedes. May try and size up a move here, and then he also has a Porsche right in front of him as well. So Car Sketchy, who we're riding on board with, is right behind the Overtake Team Pink Team Mercedes. At this stage, they are really struggling. It's a 15.5 second gap now. Lunatic Racing has come into the pits, so that's a little bit of, is this an early pit stop from them? This is a little bit bizarre. I wasn't expecting them to come into the pits, but they are now trundling down pit road. They're all coming in now, so you can see Overtake Team Pink involved. We'll see if there's a little bit of time clawed up in this strategy. You can see Lunatic Racing, I believe, is already in their box, about to pull away here in just a few moments time. We're following Carl Sketchy right behind that Overtake Team Pink car, which just barely retook the lead before the Longhorn Racing Ferrari overtook the both of them. Now they're stopped in the box. You can see there's that little bit of damage there on one of the Ferraris stopped in the box there. I think I see a missing hood on that car a few boxes away. This is now a lead, it's a driver change here for the Lunatic Racing team. Colin McKenzie is now in that car, currently second in class. They're getting at well ahead of Overtake Team Pink. They're still in their box, still in pit lane. That is Antal Biro in the really slow motion racing team, so they have done a driver swap as well. The Overtake Team Pink car is still in their box. This is quite a long way for them. They're still in their box, and this is a disastrously long pit stop. They're now exiting. I think that was that a 40-second long pit stop? That was a very long pit stop. 1 minute spent in pit lane. That is disastrous there, and rubbing salt if the Overtake Team.
It's 11 seconds longer than the Lunatic team. Just looking at that row whilst we were looking in the pits there, so therefore the duo managed to lead these Porsche Grandfather Jug team, who were just in front of them. They've had a disastrous pit stop as well. 48.8 seconds for the D's Porsche Grandfather Jug team. Currently puts them back down into the 10th place. So just looking at the teams around them, it's around about 40 seconds, 32 to 40 seconds. They took really fueled up their car there during their second stint, so maybe make their last stint a splash and dash effort. So a little bit of a change in strategies between the teams. So these Porsche Grandfather currently was running around in 5th, finds himself down in 10th place at the moment. So I can always tell that car with its brightly coloured front end, and it was led to believe that they are the front end, and there is another D's Porsche team that has the sister team, but that's how you can tell them apart. But looking back at the pits, Longhorn Racing currently second in that GT3 and in the pits. Interesting to see if he gets out in front of the Overtake Team Pink, which will be a ton of work. I think he's going to easily do it. 2 seconds, it's going to be close between the two. think they have lost their own position on pit stop, having to do that drive. So from fighting for that first place overall, they now find themselves in third place, fighting for that second place with long haul racing. So they have gone from bad to worse, they will take Team Pink. But they, again, could be doing a different strategy. In fact, they take a more fuel on in the second stage to do less fuel in the third stage. But at the moment, finds themselves down in third place, trying to trace down long haul racing who are just in front of them in second.
I think Lunatic Racing is pooping bubbles right now. They're farting bubbles because they're so happy about how things have gone in the past few moments. At one point, they were locked in a very hard-fought battle, and now they lead in the GT3 Air category by 26.5 seconds right now. EJ Bird and the Bear Poke Workers Union currently running fourth in the GT3 Pro category. One of the only Ferraris in the top 8, well, the only Ferrari in the top 8 of the GT3 Pro class. So they are now stuck in the pits. I believe Michael Hooper will be taking over that car to do his shift. This may be a little bit more of a conventional driver strategy here, where just one driver in the first half and another in the second. So likely it will be Michael Hooper bringing that car to the finish. That was a big moment right in front of the Penguin RC Simulation GT3 car. Rudy Valentine, as I saw the GTP, narrowly missed a GT3 trying to pull it into the pit lane. Michael Hooper will now be right in front of that GTP car in question as they go into turn number 2. Now it's the Valhalla Motorsports driver exiting the pits. Sixth in the LMDH category. That class is spread out quite a decent amount right now. All the classes are spread out. The closest is actually GT3 Pro. Actually, no. LMDH and GT3 Pro are basically at the exact same gap of about 19.3 seconds, teetering around that barrier. Precision Racing Esports has been in the lead for quite some time. Stanley Racing Teal is currently behind 18.4 seconds now. They spent a little less time in the pits. I think Precision Racing Esports, as he predicted, Andy going for a bit more of a conventional strategy, just flipping a bit here. So that's Ryan O'Connor behind the wheel of that car last time by. Set a 1:26.9, which is still a pretty decent lap time. All things considered, about a second and a half off of that car's best. It's still pretty fast in terms of the rest of the drivers in that category. Currently, it's the Satellite Racing Teal team with the fastest lap of the race. Overall, 1:25.1. That's a pretty good lap time from them. SimHQ Motorsports Orange with the fastest lap in LMDH Pro. They are dominant, leading by that 19.5 seconds currently. That gap has actually decreased a little bit in the last few moments, but still they have of that category right now. Lunatic Racing probably the most comfortable currently in this race. You can see top speed wise as well. That BMW, you wouldn't expect the BMW to be so fast in a straight line, but it is, despite the fact that it's basically a flying brick on wheels, shall we call it. Backpain and I-String Racing Team, we haven't talked about them too much so far in this broadcast. They're currently running in P3 at the Overtake Team Pink car right behind them. I think they just got done there in the past few moments. Overtake Team Pink, did they make some kind of mistake? Because they've now dropped down to 4 and are at 3 seconds off of Backpain and I-String Racing. So I think things are going from bad to worse. That category is going to be awful for the Overtake Team Pink team.
They've certainly fallen off a cliff somewhere along this race. Obviously, that drive-through penalty has really rattled the team as a whole. And it's hard to gain composure, isn't it? If you're sat behind the wheel and you get that drive-through penalty, you get super annoyed, you get frustrated with yourself. That's when you start over-pushing yourself to try and get that time back, losing more time, and then losing more position in the race. You're almost forced to try and do stuff. It goes back to what I said about the Backpain and I-String team. You never really talk about them during the main part of the race. They're like the grey men of that GT3 Anfield. But what they're really good at is consistently doing some lap times. So they're constantly doing it. So they're keeping and maintaining that high tempo speed, which basically puts them up there. And at the moment, they're currently in third place. They're around about 8 seconds on the long haul racing team. And they're just merrily going on their way, doing their lap times, metronomically putting in the same give or take a tenth of a second on the lap times. And the team is so well knit. We spoke to them last week on on the broadcast after their fantastic win at Spa. You know, and the two guys that were driving today, I think that's a different driver what they have as well. They're all got a fast, super fast driver, and they haven't got a super slow driver. They're all consistently good at what they do, and that's how they're able to maintain the decent positioning level in their place. We look at Team Draw, the top team in the GT3 program, around the fifth. They did struggle at the start of the race. They were found themselves down in 8th place, but they've now got themselves back up. There's about a 12-second gap now between themselves and really slow motion racing in 4th. So got a little bit of a gap to try to overcome to be able to get the team up. But one of the teams I really want to sort of look at is Michael Hooper, Bearport Workers Union. They're currently in 7th place. Michael Hooper is an extremely quick driver. We saw it out in Spa. He was the one that basically brought that car to the end of Spa. Extremely quick driver, and I'm expecting to get some decent lap times out of him. So maybe watch out for the Bearport Workers Union team in that Ferrari starting to move up the field, because I know that Michael is an extremely quick driver in that Ferrari, and I'd imagine he will be starting to top the tables in the times in that GT3 Pro field.
One thing that I was going to mention during the qualifying session, which it feels appropriate now to mention it here, is the track conditions we saw in that qualifying session. That 91 degrees was a track that we're on lap 69, which explains why it's extra hot and sticky as Michael Hooper spins a GTP around in corner number 2. Not sure what in the world happened there, as we see Max Muir, I believe, buzz by them after that. Michael Hooper trying to reclaim any sort of dignity after that spin. We'll have to take a look at replay to see what in the world happened coming into turn number 2. I think this was yet another miscommunication. This is one of the first accidents we've seen with GT3s and GTPs coming together, and I think it was a GTP going for a little bit of a shallow entry into turn 2, outbroke themselves just a tiny bit, trying to get that move done on Michael Hooper, just hoping that he would jump out of the way. And sadly for that GTP, Hooper was like, and sadly, these two just came to blows. I think there may be a stewards inquiry at that, as we see Soto exiting the pits. Soto in the CMS Racing.com Pro entry, currently running P6 in the LMDH category. We see has a massive slide coming through turn 2. That was borderline, I think, in exiting the pits in terms of picking up a penalty. I think I saw 2 wheels over that white line from my perspective. Maybe my perspective was a little bit different than what people are saying on this broadcast on Apex Racing TV, but that was borderline a penalty for the CMS Racing.com team. So actually, I think they came into the pits because of a drive-through. You can see they always spent 16.9 seconds in the pits, so that would be very unfortunate if they picked up a penalty just after serving a drive-through. That would not be ideal for the team. P6 in the category of the position where they started to take a look at a replay. This, I believe, is that pit exit. Actually, no, this is going into the pits here.
But it's great to see the drives through. We really lost it there on the entry. This is almost reminiscent of the Le Mans entry. You know, I think that's a pig of an entry coming into there. You've got a real slow. If you hit the gravels, and coming through, that's a bit to the outside of you. Coming out of the exit. It literally keeps that 2 cars just in them white lines there. Limit the effect there from Alfonso Suto and the CMS to try and maintain that 6th place in overall. But yeah, interesting. We're now in what we call the steady phase of the race. So it's the middle portion of the race. To me, it's probably one of the vital stages of an endurance race, because you're seeing the gaps there. The gaps are all spread out, so it's almost you against the clock. It's whether you can maintain that high speed level to fight. So it's just driving the car and the clock around this middle section before they come into their final distance to be able to say that so there's a dive on the last wall, back on the live stewards. You know, it's one of them thankless tasks that everybody hates doing, is looking at penalties and dishing out penalties, but I think they're super consistent in what they do. They're very fair, and the drivers, I think, appreciate the fact that, you know, some of them maybe not when they get a penalty, but I suppose looking on reflection do so. They do a fantastic job, and they make the series that little bit more immersive in that penalties are not done after the race, they're affected during the race. So they've got a hard job to do, so big shout out to them for the job that they do in the steward's box. Very much a fabulous task, and probably the arch nemesis of every single team. But also we do a vital job, our sponsors. So a big shout out to another one of the sponsors for this series, SimRacing247.com. SimRacing247.com is a proud sponsor of great racing communities such as Champions Motorsport. SimRacing247 is an independent sim racing network that prides itself on providing news and more to the sim racing and driving community in the game. They carry out the following with great staff and hard work: non-stop content, race reports, promotions, community support, features, investigations, analysts and reviews. It's all about sim racing, then it's on their website. So head over to simracing247.com. It's a place for those who enjoy sim racing, rookies or pro sim racing for everyone. So head over to them to have a look at them, and it's always good to have big sponsors in a series like this that enables the series to go on. But currently at the moment we're looking at Ryan O'Connor of Precision Racing Sports, currently in that LMDH podcast, just coming into the pit stop, so bang on time for their calling. And it's going to be interesting at the end between themselves and Saturn Racing Team 2. They're going to take the lead now, but it's going to be all down to how these two different strategies pay off. But it's good to see that Satellite Racing Team have not got it all their own way.
I'll tell you what, I appreciate having a lot of strategy content to talk about in this race. It adds a little bit of an added tier to the other broadcast here. Hopefully everyone's enjoying the stream here on Apex Racing TV. And touching on the other point that you mentioned about a lap ago, talking about race stewarding, I have a bit of a different perspective since I do it for the Rickmatek series that are streamed here on Apex Racing TV every single Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I believe that would be 5 p.m. Pacific, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure what time it would be in the UK, probably about 1 a.m. or something like that. But I can assure you that it is a very thankless job. We had an issue a few weeks ago where we threw a full course yellow at Long Beach, and iRacing went rogue on us and essentially penalized half of the GT3 grid. So we spent about half an hour trying to sort it all out and let these drivers reassume their regular positions. And after that, and the fact that I was ripping out half of my hair during that moment, and I was just there as a little bit of an assistant, I can assure you that all these drivers, all the stewards in this race and cross sim racing as a whole are really working hard. And the drivers, while they may not appreciate some of the calls, they do have a lot of respect. Hopefully, they have a lot of respect for the job that they do. As you said, Andy, a pretty thankless job. I'm definitely not saying that to pat myself on the back. We have a lot of storylines still in this race. As you said, Andy, we're in a little bit of a lull in the race. We're about to hit the 2-hour mark here in about 12 minutes, so I think we'll get in a small discussion. I've had to mute myself about 17 times over the past hour because in a small little break I grabbed myself a small little snack, so we'll have a quick little chat about snacks on these endurance racing broadcasts. I think I said at the start I had a glass of water, a Snapple, and I also have a thing of watermelon, which by the way costs me $4. So I love the price of produce in the city of Philadelphia here in the U.S. So Andy, do you have any snacks at your disposal here for this broadcast and drinks?
To be honest, I don't drink. I've got a certain beverage variety that I sort of slamming. I don't think I need to on a 3-hour broadcast. I think when it's like 4, I mean certainly for the next one for Le Mans, I think I'm going to have some jelly sweets next to me for a bit of a sugar, plenty of soft drinks to be able to many that I have to keep going to the toilet, because I wouldn't be fair on you. It's sometimes hard. You've got to prepare yourself for things. Certainly, from the broadcaster side of it, you've got to make sure that you've had some food beforehand. You try to go to the loo beforehand, so you're not going during the broadcast, because you want to make it as seamless as possible when you're on the stream. You don't want to have periods of long silences where you're just following a car. So you've got to be a bit professional about it, but certainly on the longer ones you need to have your snacks readily available to munch on board, keep it going, as you say. But I suppose the other thing that keeps you going is when you get a decent series and it's a decent racing, like Spa. I mean, the end of that Spa, I mean, if you haven't seen it, guys, go back and have a look, even if it's the last 10 minutes of that, because you can't pay what the ending of that race was. I won't spoil it for you, but it was probably the best racing I've seen, even from the sprint race. That gives you a buzz, and I think it's always good. But the snacks are there, you've got to have the jelly sweets, you've got to maybe have some crisp, not too crunchy. That's my snack routine. It'll certainly come out into force in the morning.
I think my perspective may be a little bit different, just for the simple sake that's currently 1:54 p.m. here on the east coast of the U.S. just past lunchtime, so that means the reason why I'm kind of snacking some stuff to skin out on lunch, even though I had a very light breakfast as well, so I need to keep myself going in some way, shape, or form. Following Longhorn, I looked at Longhorn Racing, and for some reason I thought getting a Longhorn steak, that's a steak chain here in the U.S. We're looking at Max Muir involved in an absolute hornet's nest. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen with that track map graphic, there is basically nowhere on track where there isn't a car involved right now. P4 in the GT3 Pro count. That's about entering turn 12 now, all the way up until turn 15 is the only section of this track where there's not a whole lot of lapped cars. For some reason my voice is giving out. As you can see, Michael Hooper went off track there. Not sure what happened to him coming through turn number 11 this time by. I have to take a look at the replay as we're following Max Muir. I wonder if he may decide to come in right about now, because this lap traffic that he's involved in, he stays out of, so that's a little bit shocking. Usually you'd think that, hey, I'm in the midst of a massive hornet's nest of lap traffic, I may as well get at this and hopefully exit the track in a much more smoother section. But right now, Max Muir still trying to chug away those laps last time by. It shows you how bad the lap traffic affected him. A 128.4, which is, I would say, a dismal lap time, but it's definitely not good compared to some of the drivers further in the back. I'm not sure what time that the Penguin RC Simulation Magma team set last time by, but I guarantee it was a darn slight quicker than that. It just shows you negotiating that GT3 traffic. And there wasn't a section that Max Muir had where he wasn't catching that. Now you can see Blake Reynolds last time by at 126.6, so about 2 seconds quicker on that one lap. It shows you how important it is negotiating that GT3 traffic and finding the right spot to hit that traffic as well. Here there's a great opportunity as Blake Reynolds dispatches one of the, I believe that's an LMDH AM that he just overtook there at the hairpin. That is the best spot going down that back not so straight straightaway. But then you enter this section, and basically from the Mercedes Arena here in turn number 8 all the way through until about turn number 1 to any single lap traffic whatsoever, because you have the small little flat out blast here to negotiate some of these cars. But now Blake Reynolds, okay, he would be able to pick off both of those cars at once. I was wondering if he's going to get stuck behind the Bear Pope Enduro team that he was catching up to as they entered turn at number 11. At this stage, there is so much left to be decided. We don't have much time left. We are over halfway through. Have an hour and 6 minutes. Actually, it's an hour and 6 minutes left to go here before we take the checkered flag and the time runs out on that 3-hour clock. So at this stage, it is getting crunch time for a lot of these drivers.
It certainly is. But as we are just about to go into our last hour, let's give a rundown of where the teams are, as we just see the drive through. overtaking Team Pink again. The day goes from bad to worse. So they were fighting for that time currently in P3. They will now lose out to Batman and Ice Train for another drive through. That's two for the day. But let's have a look at the movers and shakers in the field through into the classes. So let's have a look at the LMDH World category first. So in first place, started off in first is the Satellite Racing Team 2. So they are currently in a position that went, as we have a little bit of a mix there between the SimHQ Orange, who is our leader in the LMDH category, just lost that position.
Lost it.
Is that a pro? Is that a pro that went into the back of it? Let's have a replay of that. Disastrous for the Android. There he is. Over Team Pink. No, that wasn't over Team Pink. That's one of the over Team tails. Literally ran right into the back of him. Losing in the first place of that AM category. It's disastrous there. And that's how quickly it can store the chain. It's one of the overtake. Let's have a look at the rundown of the positions anyway. So in first position, as I said, they started in first, they currently still find themselves in first place. In second place in the LMDH Pro category, we've got Penguin RC Simulation Magma, who are up 6 places from where they currently started. So they are a fantastic race, only on a 2-second stop. Third place, we've got Rhino Panel on the Precision Racing Eastwards. They are down 1 position from where they started in 4th place. Sorry, 3rd place. In 4th place, we've got Simon Racing Team up 2 positions, while still in the same car in 4th place overall. In 5th place, we've got 10-2 Delta C Tech 377. So they are pretty much where they started the race in 5th place overall. So mistakes coming from them. In 6th place, up 1 place, is Alfonso Sucho of CMSRacing.com Pro. They're in 6th. In 7th, we've got 100 Horse. Great day in the office, down 3 overall. In 8th place, we've got Team FFSR Venom. They are up 2 places. They're currently CRF Motorsports. They're up 4 places. In P10th in the Pro category, we have got SimHQ Motorsport Red. They're down 1 position from where they started. And in P11th, we've got Mika Esports up 5 places from where they started in P11th. A bit of a gap between 11th Racing, only down in 12 places, 3 places down from where they started in first place. And then probably the biggest loser in that Pro category is the Blue Team, now 12 places from where they started in that grid in P13. In 14th for the Pro, we've got Obsidian Racing Future. They are up 7 places from where they started, and in 15th place we've got Overtake Team Red. Further down the field, we've got Overtake Team Blue in P16 places from where they started, and Penguin RC Simulation through the amateur class level.
Yeah, sure thing. I was just going to add one little thing as we see some side-by-side action here. Heading into the hairpin, the car that was involved in spinning this man, Darren Mowbray, out was actually the Overtake Team Blue Team. So that was the other driver that made contact. That was the 392 driver there that caused chaos that has given a little bit of a tough challenge. They came into the pits and served that, well, they didn't serve a penalty, but they picked up that faster pair. So they are still in the lead of the race right now, leading by 51 seconds. So Pneumatic Motorsports Purple, who briefly retook the lead, were definitely on some sort of adverse strategy because they're currently 52 seconds back as we're taking a look at a replay now of some of the drama. This was what caused all that drama in the first place. With the Overtake Team Blue car, and it's very, it's, you can understand why these drivers race as hard as they are, but still, the fact that they are beating and banging each other up, heading into turn 2 with about an hour left shows how high the nerves are at this stage of the race.
Yeah, I think he just lost his breaking point there and went right into the back of the CMS Motorsport Orange team. It wasn't ideal considering he was the leader of the 2 different classes. It's a bit unfortunate when that happens, but I suppose that's racing, isn't it? You get fixated, lose your braking point. Certainly, you know, in these endurance races, you do lose a little bit of concentration the further you get into it. 3-hour races shouldn't be too bad, but certainly you race a bit more than the so that's a 6-hour race. We may see 3 driver lineups for that one.
You see Max Muir now in the pits for the Satellite Racing Team Teal Team. He's currently running P2 in the class, was at the front. Now it's a Penguin RC Simulation Magna team in that Cadillac leading. They spent their last pit stop at 40.8, which is exactly the same as a Precision Racing esports team currently running in third. We'll see they may overtake Max Muir here. We know that's a SimHQ Motorsports red team. Here's 100 Force exiting the pits. They have had I would say, I think catastrophic would be the best way to do it. It has not been the best racing in the world for them, so at this point, they are in damage control. Ooh, as I see a spin there, Max Muir having to try and take avoiding action. Who was that spinning exit in corner number 1? Was that the Satellite Racing blue team? If I'm not mistaken, I see them dropping back down the running order. I'm not sure who that was going for a spin and exiting corner, but thankfully, Max Muir did not team the running on the hole, following Paul Norling. Going into 1 here, gets a move done on the GTP, hits that curb, and oh yeah, that curb on the outside is just as treacherous as the one on the inside. It's a little bit of one of those 2-stage curbs, so very, very tricky. Max Muir just threading the needle, having to go for a little bit of rally action to avoid making contact. We're going to follow Max Muir as he exits out of the pits. One thing that he did not want to see is this thing, a car spin in front of him, and ooh, I think he barely lifted out the throttle. I think that shows you the dedication of Max Muir. He was like, hey, look, I can't stop. I cannot afford to stop in this race. Otherwise, I will not be able to contend for it. So Max Muir, he didn't keep it full throttle, but he definitely did not lift entirely out of the gas there until the very last moment. So you got to respect Max Muir for having the stones to avoid that spinning car right in front of him.
Yeah, it would have been bad for his own teammate to take him out of the game. It's perfect race.
Oh, no.
Another car right on the exit there around turn 50. That is twice in one lap, but Max's well and truly into let's have a look. Let's have a look at this. What happened? So we've got the Obsidian Racing feature. Second to last corner, makes contact with the GT3 car. Drives the is right on the racing line, and luckily Max just misses him. Luckily that Graham basically stayed still. He could have moved either forward or back. That could have been disastrous, but kept his foot on the brake to be able to do. But that's 2 for 2. At least he gets to see it later. That won't be helping him for trying to close down that precision racing. Let's have a look at your LMDH categories. Currently leading the way miraculously is the SimHQ Motorsport Orange team in first place after that earlier interview we saw with a rear end shunt from one of the overtake teams going into turn number 2. In second place we've got Pneumatic Motorsport Purple, driven by James Stacey. In third place we've got Wayne Hutchinson and Dr. Brock. In fourth place we've got Sam with Alson Racing LMDH class. And then in fifth place we've got Val. In sixth we've got James Foster driving Team Red Train. We haven't really talked about much. Their expectations. And Dog Growl currently in P7. Way down the field out there in P8 is the Fendi Racing Team White, driven by Brandon Watt. 46 place. That's LMDH. It's another one that's crept into the LMDH. It's looking at the GT3 Pros currently leading the way as the overtake Team Black in second place. Is attempting Delta Syntech 144. In third place we've got the overtake Team White by Victor Lynn. In third place. In fourth we've got Really Slow Motion Racing, and in fifth place we've got overtake Team grey. In 6th place, we've got Michael Eber in the Bear Pub Workers. In 7th place is Penguin RC Simulation Team. The 8th, we've got Bear Pub Enduro. Seem to have gone backwards instead of up. They were making a steady progress going up the field, but found themselves back in P8 overall. So they are current leaders in the GT3 field. In P9, we've got Esports Run Forward Jug, so they've gone the wrong way down the field as well, currently in P9. Trying to chase down their endurance, so I suppose their only saving grace is that airport endurance again is having a back there in the as well. So, and then rounding out your GT3 profile is the Delta Simtech driven by in the GT3 Anfield, then we've got in first place, we've got Lunatic Racing, has around about 8 cars between him and the second place of Longhorn Racing. They are up 8 places from where they started. They come back from the Longhorn Racing. In third place, we've got Matt Bain and O-Strain team. Again, another one we talked about a little bit in Metronome about the background laps. Currently running around in third place, so some good points for them to the team that's probably had the worst luck in the field. It's the Overtake Team Pink. 2 drive-through penalties so far served in this race. They were fighting for that first place with Lunatic Racing, but currently find themselves down in the fourth place. Fifth place, we've got CMS Racing.com. Endurance driven by Dave Mercer, got 2 places from the race started. And then in 6th place, we've got Bear Pub Zero. Started in 6th and currently running down in 7th place. In 7th place, we've got Larry Ford, Longhorn Racing 2, and in 8th place, we've got Carl Horn Motorsports. In 9th, we've got Direct Drive Motorsports. In 10th place, we've got Cam Ab Racing. And Valhalla Motorsports. Rounding up the field, 47. One team, the 9 courses down from where they started, but at the moment, 47 drivers started this race, 47 drivers still in this race.
Sim HQ Motorsports Orange is back in the pits, so right now the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple team are licking their lips. The only other team that's still on the lead lap in that LHM category, so this is a pit stop from the Sim HQ Motorsports team. Are they, did they have some sort of accident? Is there some sort of penalty that they're serving? No, they are still in the pits. They're just taking some tires right now. You can see them up on jacks in that Porsche. They will see the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple team buzz by them on that left-hand side, the right-hand side from your perspective, looking down the pit lane, and we're going to see the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple team buzz by them right about now. So still up on jacks is the Sim HQ Motorsports Orange team now leaving their box. So they're pitting a little bit. It was about 8 laps. My apologies. It was about 6 laps separating those two teams, I should say, from coming in. And actually, the Sim HQ Motorsports Orange team took a little bit less gas there, so you can see about 2 seconds quicker in their last time down the pits, as we see the Tonodo Delta Simtech team, number 377, is in the pits, and those Acuras there, so we'll see them exit the pits here in the not-too-distant future. Right now, we're getting to crunch time. We have less than an hour left to go in this race. These drivers are negotiating either their final or second to last pit stops now, so this is going to be really all the drivers have to get up on the wheel a little bit, start driving it very, very hard. Pneumatic Motorsports Purple, they're on a slightly different strategy. They have to stretch their fuel in the later stages of this race. They'll have to pit a little bit earlier, so I think they'll have to worry about fuel statement in the later stages of this race. I think they don't want to see that. Oh my god, that was a big snap as they put 2 wheels off into the dirt, trying to go 3 wide with some GT3 in between turn 11 and 12. So James Stacy of that Pneumatic Motorsports Purple entry up 3 spots from where they start, having an 8.5 second gap to the Sim HQ Motorsports Orange team, who are slowly eating away at that gap. It's now been 8 seconds now, so I think James Stacy, now that he's cleared most of that lap traffic, he will have to gun it if he wants to try and pull away that gap, because slowly but surely the Sim HQ Motorsports Orange team are slowly rolling them.
They certainly are, and it's going to be... Oh, as we have jumped out. What's that? That isn't satellite racing. It's a satellite racing team. That's something that was an absolute big smash. It is. It's Max Muir, the satellite racing team. Wow, they have literally just completely lost this race. Let's have a look at what happened there. I just saw it in the background. Just sped right off. Let's have a look. This is the start finish coming down into turn number 1. Oh, the clips at the back, and literally that car is destroyed. That is going to be the longest pit turn that it can be. It's literally just that minutes. So we're going to have a new winner here for is it going to be
I wonder if there's any sort of damage on that Sim HQ Motorsports orange car. That was fairly hefty contact. Of course, you can see Max Muir's car absolutely destroyed. They are still turning back to the pits. That fight for 4 is officially done from the Satellite Racing Team. We're taking a look at another replay. I don't know if it's from my perspective, but it looks like Max Muir was blinking a little bit, so maybe that's the reason why this contact happened. Oh, it was a very late dive there from Max Muir. I think it was a little bit of pressure, I can imagine, from Max Muir here, feeling, hey, with less than an hour to go in this race, I really need to go for some bold moves. He's usually fairly patient with his lap traffic. He goes for a little bit more than he can shoot. I think, from my perspective, I think Max Muir, that was a little bit of a low percentage move, I think would be the correct technical term. He did not have to risk it, even though he was trying to fight for the lead and was actually on the back foot in that fight, but now he is completely at it. You can see the tires back on that car. I wonder, have they already used a faster pair? I don't believe they have. So if they haven't, that's still good. I mean, they're still got to be hopelessly out of contention. They're now from the P15 in class. They're the only team that have them. That is the overtake team. Also the Penguin RC Simulations car right behind them. It's looking very good for Precision Racing Esports to try and claw up massively in this championship fight. Will the strategy work? We've got Penguin RC Simulation, the same strategy that Max Muir and Satellite Racing Team were, and then you've got Precision Racing Esports, who, as we said when we saw them go with this off-brand strategy, they are outside the top 10 in the points. I believe they're currently 12th in the standings. Did not have the best first half of the year, but now we're in the second half, the main championship. The championship leader who's been dominating this season, pretty much from start to finish. Max Muir and the entire Satellite Racing Team are out of it, so I think Ryan Connor and really the entire LMDH field are seeing a fantastic opportunity to take a big bite out of this lead here for Max Muir as he continues to stay in the pits and continues to fall down the order.
Definitely does. But I mean, the team have a 26-point advantage. That's going to be severely eaten into after this race with some of the others. But I think a lot of the others are really going to capitalise. Second place in in P7 at the moment. Third Saturday Racing Team, assistant team. They're probably the biggest profits. They're going to be they're currently running around in 5th place. Automatics Motorsport Blue Team well down the order. It's in the Sim Penguin RC Magma are the ones currently in P5 gain some points. They'll still be in the lead, the Satellite Racing Team, after their dominance in the first 3 rounds, but that's racing, that's endurance racing. You know, it's them fine margins, and I think I tend to agree with what you're saying there, is that maybe Max didn't need to make that move, because if you look at the replay there, is that Max came right to the edge, outside edge, where that inside car was there, so I don't think there was any caution to be played for that inside car to clip the back end. I just think it was where Max was going into that, he was going in very shallow, so he was naturally gonna drift out wide into that corner, and unfortunately just got clipped at the end. But that was a big hit, and we saw with the pictures in the pit, that front end completely caved in. Fast repair to do, but they are well down the order at the moment, currently in P15, out on track still. Just going further down the order, so they're going to also watch. I think that's the second time that he's actually spun, not quite there, but I think it's the second time I've seen him spin. But doing the best of the first tires there down there. This is the part of the race, isn't it, where the tires are going to be more for the GT3s, you know, that coming down into that airplane, using the brake getting this total spins on track to be able to that far ahead and beyond that they were able to do. Looking back at the back end of the high street team, they've moved down the order. Oh yes, they have already pitted for their third pit stop, so every team in front of them at the moment have only pitted twice, so that's why we're seeing them down currently in 5th place overall. Trying to look at now they're basically on their last, or should be on their last stint. Yeah, they should be on their last stint. So that's where they went in. That's where Delta Syntec is overall. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see once everybody's done the last round of pit stops to see where the teams are, because it's still a bit of a deck of cards where some have done 3, some have done 2, not everybody's been in and done their final stop, so it's only till that shake up and everyone's been in for their final stop that's fighting for the Fendi Racing Simulation in for their first stop. Racing comfortably out in the in that GT3 just coming out, you can see the overtake team pink there just coming into stops. So 2 drive-through penalties. They were fighting Lunatic for that race win in the GT3 round, but it's a bit lucky, I would say, for the Lunatic racer. They've been let off the hook on that one. Big style are able to keep a nice sizable lead up from that Lunatic team pink. Pretty sure they're kicking themselves.
Pit stops done out of the way and could just straight up drive until the checkered flag. Is a lot of these drivers, especially when it comes to battling for the lead, it's going to be a matter of catch-up. Currently, the Precision Racing Esports team has a 40-second gap in LMDHM. They're separating Pneumatic Motorsports Purple and Sim HQ Orange. We can see now overtake Team Blue, who were involved in that incident, the first of the prototype incidents that we saw not very long ago when he pitched Michael Cooper into a small, actually no, that was the main contact with the Sim HQ Motorsports Orange team not very long ago. They were the dominant force throughout a vast majority of this race in the LMDHM category, but things, I wouldn't say have fallen apart because they still have a 9-second gap to the drivers in front, which was one of the smaller gaps throughout this entire field for the other lead positions. We still have a decent amount of time left to go in this race at 2 hours and 18 minutes into this 3-hour affair here, but Sim HQ Motorsports Orange have really not, they haven't gotten back when it comes to that fight with Pneumatic Motorsports Purple. I said it when I saw that incident, and I'll say it again, it's another drive-through for Valhalla Motorsports for avoidable contact. They'll be serving that here in the next few moments, but I wonder, does Sim HQ Motorsports Orange have damage on that car? Because they have found no way in chance of catching up to Pneumatic Motorsports Purple. The gap has been the same ever since those two exited the pits last time by, so I think Sim HQ Motorsports Orange has to have some sort of damage on that car that could be the reason why they're struggling a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit unfortunate, isn't it, when you lose a position by somebody in a different class. But that's racing. They've got to get on with it. They've been super fast all day, but there's got to be some sort of problem in that car, or it might be the driver that's in the car. The pneumatic one is actually being able to match the speeds that the going on. I'm just having a look at the last lap. So the pneumatic was perfect in 127.4, and the Sim HQ Motorsport Orange did in 130, so they lost 3 seconds in that last lap. again, it's the trepidation of getting that GT3 cars into the mix. I'm just looking at the chat there. Definitely got lucky. We're certainly racing strong. We'll take team big to get the two driving methods. It's a great race. Watching there, but we're here's a pit stop. In 8th overall, in for the final part, and there's the D's Robbie Prescott just coming out of the pits there. 5th place overall. Endurance races, how quickly you can sort of gain positions, lose positions by looking at just the pure strategy of where drivers are, so taking more fuel early on, so taking less. It's really, at this point, what sort of cars have come out, which I believe they have in the Brock, is where you actually see the cars in their true positions going into the last stint. So, you know, you look at that GT3 Pro, all the team black and white have been down the front consistently all around. Looking further back to endurance and current leaders in that class. Struggling a little bit today out there because we're in the car there in P8 overall, so that will certainly tighten up that GT3 Pro. But it's probably a story of this season is that nobody in that GT3 Pro, same with the GT3 app, nobody has won 2 races in the last 4 races. There's been different winners on every single race, and it's looking like it's going to be the same here today with Unity racing in the GT3 app. They have won. Trending in that field, if they can maintain that rate. Overall, that's GT3 Pro, looking at the overtake team. You know, they've come on leaps and bounds, just looking further down where they are in the standings. On the standings, oh yes they are. So they haven't even finished in the top 3 in any of the opening 3 rounds. So it's a good result here for the overtake team black overall. In fact, tell a lie, they actually came second in Spa in the last 5 races. Crashing out here, which is giving an opportunity for the rest of the field to close the 26-point gap ahead of the LMDH Pro field, which will make it interesting coming into Le Mans, the 6-hour race that we've got coming up next month here on Apex Racing. And that's going to add a little bit of spice to that LMDH Pro category.
I think that Le Mans race coming up in 1 month's time is a good enough reason for anyone watching the stream here on Apex to subscribe, hit the notification bell as well. We've also got one heck of a Weekend Warriors runoffs coming up next time at the Weekend Warriors broadcasts are actually going on right now. I believe, in fact, they might be over for the day, but still, next week for the Formula Fords, they're going to be running in the rain at Okayama as we're running a war with Ryan Connor. That's a race that I'm really looking forward to. Ryan Connor was following a Porsche GTP who had a bit of a long shot there entering corner number 8. O'Connor at this stage, he just needs to keep it clean. He has a 55.3 second gap between himself and the Penguin RC Simulation Magma team there, and only 3 cars currently in LMDH Pro are on the lead lap, so I really don't know of any sort of way that Ryan Connor and the Precision Racing Esports team can screw this up. This would be a massive result for them. They're currently 12th in the standings, so that'd be great for them. They're still risking it going 3 wide going down that start finish. Straight away, very close to making contact with that Porsche there, but right now 55-second gap. Let's say they lose Gotta wonder, they will not lose that gap because Penguin RC Simulation has to pit as well, if I'm not mistaken. Will they have to pit again? I believe they will. But if Penguin RC Simulation doesn't have to pit, which I doubt very highly, I'm very much confident that they will be pitting between now and the checkered flag. Precision Racing Esports just needs to avoid hitting anyone else or hitting a wall, and they'll basically be in the clear to the checkered flag.
Yeah, 100%. I think they all do have to stop again especially because when was the last time they pit? 72. Yeah, 100% that they will all have to stop again. Varying amounts. Obviously, we saw Precision Racing Esports flip around their tactic at the start, so they're probably on a bit of a fuel-saving tactic as well to mitigate the fact that they might have to take a little bit more fuel. And they got the opportunity to do that. You know, they got 55 seconds lead over the current team we're watching, the Penguin RC Simulation Magma team. But likewise, they've got a decent sizable 20-second gap over the 10-2 Delta Syntec 377 team. So the top sort of three, which are the only ones that are currently on the lead laps, have got an easy run in, I would say, to the checkered flag. You know, they know what they've got to do. They've just got to avoid the traffic and keep it nice and clean, and they should end up in the positions that they currently are. Just looking further back now with the LMDH and the SimHQ Motorsport Orange have managed to eat into that pneumatic Motorsport Purple team. So probably heard us on the broadcast saying that we're getting a bit further back. They're now 6.3 seconds down, so managed to gain back 4 seconds over the pneumatic Motorsport Purple team ahead of them. So probably caught up in traffic as we see them just about to overtake the Bahrain and Australian team coming down into turn number 2. So yeah, that's certainly the battle on track at the moment is the LMDH AM. Lunatic Racing in the GT3 AM, 27 seconds they've got over the overtake Team Pink. They've done an exceptional job just looking at their strategy. So they're on currently the same amount of pit stops as the rest of the team. And they've done fantastically well, considering they've had 2 drive-through penalties to be in second place at the moment, trying to get chased down. They've got a 7-second lead over the Longhorn Racing team, who are 3 seconds ahead of the Bahrain and Australian. So they've certainly pulled it out the bag, had the overtake Team Pink with the bad luck that they've had out in the races today. And the GT3 Pro overtake Team Black 7.2 seconds ahead of the 10-2 Delta Syntec. So there's still over 34 minutes left of this race to go. So some of these may come down closer when it comes to the end of the race, everyone.
Yeah, I have a very good feeling about that GT3 Pro battle being very hard fought between now and the checkered flag. Overtake Team Black have had a very up and down race. Ooh, we can see now them going side by side with the GTP as they go through the quick succession of turns 13, 14, and 15 going into the final corner there. But I can imagine that the hard-fought fight will be in GT3 Pro. I'm still not confident in SimHQ Motorsports Orange. I'll know what it is. It's just, it's been very spotty, the pace that they have, as Precision Racing Esports, I believe, have just exited the pit, so their gap is now down quite a lot. They're about 4 seconds separating those 2 drivers now, as you can see Michael Diaz in that Precision Racing Esports car exiting and coming through turn number 2. On those cold tires, the gap is now 3.5 seconds, teetering around that barrier with about a half an hour left to go in this race. I wonder, will they be able to hold it off? I'm confident that they will, because this gap, being as small as it is right now, is a little bit artificial, because Penguin RC Simulation will have to pit in a few moments' time. But Michael Diaz, what he really needs to do is just keep it clean, keep it on the track, and avoid hitting anyone else, because before that pit stop, again, 55-second gap, that is huge at a track like this. This is, I'm trying to think now, this is about a 1.5-minute lap, so a 55-second gap. It just shows you how big of an advantage he had. As he was going around the final corner, some of the other drivers were just going down that back straightaway, so it shows you how dominant Michael Diaz was before he came into the pits. But that gap is decreasing between himself and the Penguin RC Simulation Magma team, now under 3 seconds, as he's negotiating a whole boatload of lap traffic. He has 2 Ferraris ahead of him. He had to check up big time there to avoid making any any sort of contact. That is a terrible, and I mean terrible, section to pick up the GT3. Traffic has to check up again with that Ferrari braking mid-corner. Michael Diaz will not be happy about how that ended up for him. The gap is now about 2.5 seconds, separating the Penguin RC Simulation Magma team and Precision Racing Esports. This is going to be a nice, tense little battle. LMDH-AM, that gap is actually decreasing between SimHQ Motorsports Orange and Pneumatic Motorsports Purple. About 6 seconds now. GT3-AM, 25 seconds. That will probably not be a hard-fought fight between those two as Lunatic Racing looks to try and have a dominant win, as you said earlier on, Andy. That would be the second win for that team this season. That would be the first team in the GT3 categories between both AM and Pro to score 2 wins on the year. So that would be a breakthrough performance for them if they can hold on to that gap between now and the checkered flag. I think we've got some very hard-fought battles between now and the finish with about 30 and a half minutes left to go here.
Yeah, it definitely is. It looks like the biggest battle on track at the moment is between Long Wheel Racing and Back Pain and Eye Strain at the moment. It's looking like it's just over a second gap between them two out on track at the moment. So that's for third and fourth place in the GT3 AM. So that's probably your closest battle you've got at the moment. That's the car he's chasing just gone through the bottom of your screen there, just gone around this corner. So Vincent March just trying to track down. They've got a slow running, looks like a Porsche in front of these two battling out overall. So it's going to be interesting in the next couple of laps when these two finally get together. Ooh, he's got an LMDH just feathering him in. Literally has to take it wide over them sausage curb. Straddled it exceptionally well, and that's probably a good point about the BMW being able to take the curbs exceptionally well. That's one of the pro drivers, one of the overtake team, just passing the Back Pain and Eye Strain team. Looking at 5th place, we've got David Nielsen, the CMSRacing.com Endurance at the moment, just getting passed by 2 LMDH riders coming around Sachs. Coming into the last half an hour now of this race. 3 starts, yeah, they should be able to see it through now, these GT3 cars. I think they were limited to around about 80% of their maximum fuel, which is around about an hour's worth of riding around here, I would imagine. But looking further back now, so we're still waiting for, I think this is a little bit of a false picture in this LMDH Pro category due to the differences in the strategies. We've had Precision Racing Esports actually gone in for their 4th pit stop already. And I think the rest of that LMDH field does have to come in for that splash and dash that Precision Racing Esports did in their first stint. If you remember back that around about an hour, 2 hours ago on that. So it's going to be interesting to see where they're at. I don't think Precision Racing Esports has anything to worry about at the moment. That gap is coming down 2.6 seconds. It was around about 3 seconds at the moment, but I think it's just between him and avoiding damage for their very first race win here on Championship Motorsports. Round number 4 here at Hockenheim. It sets out quite nicely though, I think, with the Satellite Racing Teal team. Oh, a bit tight there going into the hairpin. Stopping it on a dime. It's going to be interesting with the Satellite Racing Teal team obviously crashing out around about 20 minutes ago now. That it's going to tighten up that pro field. I still don't see anybody apart from this team we're watching now really challenging, but I think this team are too far out of the points to really challenge the overall finishing positions in this season. I think that was probably a blip in the calendar for the Satellite Racing Teal team. They are still the #1 team in that LMDH class, but it certainly makes it interesting, a little bit more pressure on the Satellite Racing. Always a big issue here down at the hairpin. Overtake Team Black, who were the current leaders of the GT3. They have now lost out. They're currently in 3rd place overall. So the Tempu Delta Simtech 144 team take the lead with the Overtake Team White taking that 2nd place, and the Overtake Team Black, you can see there, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Are all the Overtake Team White, Black and Grey, but that was a big incident at the end. Let's have a look to see what happened. Coming down, we're on board with Alex Petson, Overtake Team Black here, coming down. Oh, got mixed up with one of his own teammates. and then the Ferrari hits the back of him, spins him off, and wow, that's got to be the worst thing, isn't it, when you hit your teammates and take both yourself and your teammates off.
Well, that's rule number 1 of racing. Do not crash into your teammate. We're seeing it again from a different angle. Oh, it is such a shame there. Overtake Team Black and Overtake Team White. The entire Overtake team has had a dramatic Hockenheim run from start to finish. You can see multiple cars involved in that. If that was a bit more, if the field was a bit more packed up, that would have been a massive crash involving many cars. It would have been a pileup, which is something you don't usually see at a purpose-built racetrack, but still, hard stuff, ending in tears for the Overtake Team Black team. They are still in a decent spot, 3 seconds back of the Overtake Team White car, so it's an Overtake 1-2 currently with the Tenuto Delta Simtech team about 6 seconds back, so that isn't going to hurt them too badly. However, there may be damage and also some penalties coming for some of those drivers as well. I think maybe it's just from my perspective, Overtake Team Black looks like it has a missing front bumper on the front of that Mercedes-Benz there, so I think a bit more ventilation, you must say, but that's not going to help them going down those long straightaways. So I think the Tenuto Delta Simtech 144 team may have a good shot of actually finishing in second in this race. They have a 6-second gap to try and claw up between now and the checkered flag, which is coming in about 25 minutes time, so they definitely have the time if they want to do it. Sammy Hendricks, a name I recognize from the S1 Racing GT3 Sprint Series here on Apex Racing TV, and he is always a pretty fast driver. All things considered, ran well at Spa last time out. He's running pretty good here. He's going to be the driver seeing out the finish. They will have one more pit stop to contend with, if I'm not mistaken, and we'll see. Maybe Overtake Team Black has worn out their fast repairs. That would not be ideal for them to finish this race with a missing front bumper. That'd be an interesting interpretation of aerodynamic regulations, to be sure, but that would be the fastest, especially going down Parabolica.
Yeah, who Josh in the YouTube said that P2 in the LMDH got spun by a GT3 AM. I think that was the team we're looking at the moment, so Tenuto Delta Simtech 144, because they were leading that GT3 Pro field, and all of a sudden they were in 3rd place. And if we look at the Penguin RC Simulation Magma team, they were like 2 seconds behind. They're now 12. I don't know if you can find that incident, and let's see if we can see what happened between the two. But it certainly looks like the Tenuto Delta Simtech 144 had come into an incident, because they were leading that GT3 after the Overtake Team Black took it very deep into the hairpin. So let's see if Josh can do it. Let's have a look and see if this is the incident. So there's the incident. It wasn't the one that Tenuto, so Tenuto must have had another incident somewhere out on track. So that's the incident where P2 was probably trying to push, probably not rightly pushing really hard. Now it's just brought him back into the Tenuto Delta Simtech 377. Still a sizable gap of 14 seconds between 2nd and 3rd in the LMDH Pro, so probably not too damaging to their abilities overall out on track. But yeah, not ideal when you're chasing down. I think he does need to come in for another splash dash. Pretty much the whole field from 2nd down to 5th place in that LMDH Pro will need to come in for their 4th stop. The rest of the field pretty much all come in for their 4th stop overall. So there may still be changes in that LMDH Pro category once everyone has done their pit stops. So just looking there, so Team FFSR, you know, they're 1 lap down. So I think the finishing positions are going to be where they are out on track, but it doesn't look like there's much damage on that Penguin RC Simulation Magna team. But a great 2nd place for them overall if they're able to keep the position in the office for them.
CMSRacing.com Pro Team is now pitting from the 4th position in that LMDH Pro category for their final splash and dash here It's a 10-second gap separating two of these cars now, but the Satellite Racing Blue and the 100 Force cars are right by each other on similar strategies as well, only pitting about 2 laps apart there, one on lap 82, the other on lap 80. So there's about 10 seconds separating those two drivers, but after the incident that the Satellite Racing Teal team had earlier on in this race that they actually picked up a time penalty for as well, so just rubbing salt into the wounds for that team that has multiple laps down. That fight between Satellite Racing Blue and 100 Force may be a lot more than it's worth. If that Satellite Racing Teal team was still in this race, it wouldn't really mean too much, but now with that incident, that may mean a lot more than we were expecting it to.
Yeah, it definitely is, as we're watching CMSRacing.com. Just coming out in 6th place, so staying where they were after the pit stop. So, as expected, round about a 27-second stop there for the last final spin. It's a bit of a shame, really. I think obviously we look at Spa, Precision Racing Esports unfortunately got taken out this one. Satellite Racing Teal team got taken out. We've not seen a completed race between this Precision Racing Esports and the Satellite Racing Teal team to be able to see who would come out on top with a zero incident race to go on. Hopefully in Le Mans, which is obviously made for these LMDH cars, will be the race where we finally see them two toe-to-toe to be able to see who takes the top spots. But certainly both of the teams are showing exceptional pace on both races, and we've seen it here today where they were fighting quite hard at the start of the race. Again, we're not seeing the end of the race to see where we're at, but it's going to be interesting to see in Le Mans. Wide track, there should be very little incidents between GT3s and LMDH, being that it's such a wide track and such a long track that there should be the gaps available to make easy passes for these LMDH cars. These tight and twisted routes, same with HRF, you know, they're the ones that are really going to be the clinchers in this championship, because they're the ones where you've got to think outside the boxes with these LMDH cars, because they're so quick, and because the tracks are so short, like this one and HRF, that you know, they're the ones that are going to be the valuable points to sort of pick up as we watch Michael Hooper there just getting crowded out by 2 LMDH cars. But it's going to be interesting to see coming in. It's a pity that the Precision Racing Esports didn't have the best of the opening rounds to see where they would be at the end. Like you're saying, they're further down the field in that LMDH Pro category. What would have been if they had the same sort of race pace that they've had and shown in the last 2 races.
I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on in this race that has changed the complexion. I'm sure I can't speak for you, Andy, but as for me, I had some expectations heading into this race that have been somewhat bucked. I was expecting a lot more chaos. We have seen a bit of that, more drivers coming to blows than we saw at Spa, but still a little bit more clean than I was expecting. It shows you the great caliber of drivers that we have here in the Champion Motorsports iRacing Team Endurance Series Championship. But I was expecting a lot more of that. We did get some incidents here and there, some that have been given penalties. The team that has won all 3 races so far this season will not go 4 for 4. I was expecting them to be the dominant force. They were, but they were involved in one of those incidents that they picked up a penalty for. So I think it's been feast or famine for many of these drivers. So the ones that we were expecting to struggle, well, I wouldn't say expecting to struggle, but ones we were expecting to do well have done poorly. Look at 100 Force, for instance, who've just exited the pits, currently running in P6. The first of the drivers that are a lap down right now running P6 in the LMDH Pro category. Not been a good race for them in the slightest. Right now, Satellite Racing Blue is currently running in P3. I believe they may be slightly off sequence as 100 Force has pitted a little bit before them. So once we see the Satellite Racing Blue come into the pits in probably about 2 or 3 laps time, actually that was perfect timing as they've now just come into the pit lane. Paul Darling currently running in the 3rd position in the Satellite Racing Blue car, trundling down pit road slowly but surely. We'll see how he exits in reference to not just 100 Force, but also CMS Racing Pro. We'll see if they actually leap 1 position, because it may just seem like 1 spot in one of only 3 race, 1 race at the 6 race calendar we have, but still, that 1 position may decide a lot when it comes to that P2 championship fight.
It does. I think it's more for a day of the underdogs, the people that are normally the mid-pack races with a couple of the big names going out, and people in the mid-pack currently in the standings picking up some valuable points in the championship, which will reinvigorate them going into the final 2 rounds of the season, thinking, you know, we can pick up a few more positions here. You know, it's never over to the final flag, and you know, there's nothing more prominent that than endurance racing. You know, even the top drivers can have a bad day at the office and bring it out. So you know, it's good for like the CMS Racing.com Pro team, the Fendi Simtech 317 the Penguin Simulation Magna team to get up there, to get some valuable points on the cards. The Precision Racing Esports team to finally get the first win in the series, to give them the vital boost. You know, and it'll make for a lot more entertaining race when it comes to the final 2 rounds of the season. Certainly the next one out at Le Mans for the 6-hour race that we've got coming for you next month here on Apex Racing TV. But you know, Penguin RC Simulation there, as expected, coming in for the the 4th stop and the final stop, and still maintaining that 2nd position. So it's pretty much status quo. So at the moment, Precision Racing Esports, 47-second gap. You know, it's almost like a victory last 15 minutes for them, as long as they can stay out of trouble with the GT3 cars to take their very first win in this Championship Motorsport iRacing Team Endurance event. So it's a great day at the office for them. Probably they're probably thinking the same as exactly what Satellite Racing team did last week in their Spa interview, is that they would have liked to have had that Satellite Racing team in to give them a fight at the end, because there's nothing more satisfying than winning a race by competitive racing. It's almost like a deflated thing when you win by default because your competitor that you were racing hard with crashed out from an incident. So but a win's a win, and wins points, so it's going to be good for them to move up the standings in that. And it's what could have been if they had they showed this performance in the opening rounds to be more at the top end of that pro field.
At this rate, I can imagine Michael Diaz is checking his email. 46, teetering on 47-second gap in the dying stages of this race. Less than 15 minutes to go here. Definitely not a lot to fight for him. Meanwhile, SimHQ Motorsports Orange is at the lead of the LMDH AMs. This has been a very dramatic class in the second half of this race, although we haven't seen them actually battling on track. SimHQ Motorsports Orange been involved in multiple incidents in the second half of this race, being punted by some fellow LMDHers, getting caught up in some GT3 trouble. It has not been a smooth second half of this race for the SimHQ Motorsports Orange team, but they have an 11.5-second gap in the later stages of this race. Pneumatic Motorsports Purple is definitely on the back foot. Is there some strategy to play here with this? I don't believe there is. I believe both of these drivers, well, both of these teams are they're at the stage now where they're just trying to get to the finish. They don't have to worry about any other pit stops. So I think this is just a heads-up fight, and it looks like Darren Mowbray may be the one to hold off in that SimHQ Motorsports Orange car, setting some pretty decent laps last time by a 128.8. Just again, the lap traffic playing a big role in this race. Once we have some chats with some of these drivers after we get the checkered flag in less than 15 minutes time, we got to ask them about this lap traffic, because it has been absolutely nuts. We were expecting the lap traffic to be a big role. Oh no, the worst commentator's jinx of my life. SimHQ Motorsports Orange drive-through penalty for avoidable contact now, so that 11-second gap is going to turn into a 5 or 4-second gap to Pneumatic Motorsports Purple. They're going to be taking the lead once they serve that penalty. That is an absolute gut punch for a team who, as I said last time by, has had a very dramatic second half of this race that may be the death blow for them in the final 12 minutes of this race.
Yeah, certainly is. Just looking further back at some close battling with these Porsche Rennfahrer trying to chase down the Penguin RC Simulation GT3 car, 0.5 of a second behind them. So we've got a quick look at that battle there that's ensuing, Josh, with Rennfahrer. The D's Porsche Rennfahrer, so they're currently 6th in the GT3 Pro category there, trying to chase down. It looks like there's a three-way battle there between Penguin RC Simulation, D's Porsche Rennfahrer, who just managed to overtake they're having a real big battle there with the Penguin RC Simulation team. These three cars here are battling out for 5th, 6th and 7th in the pro category. We've got at the lead at the moment Penguin RC Simulation, driven by Rudy Valentine. Then we've got Robbie Prescott and the D's Porsche Renfather Jug team. And then we've got Michael Hooper in the Bear Pole Workers Union, who've made a great battle up. So this is a great battle in the closing stages in the GT3 Pro here, really just managing to keep out front of this battle that we're looking on screen now. The three GT3 cars are locked in a battle for 5th, 6th and 7th in that GT3 category. And this is going to be interesting now, coming down through the long straight down into the hairpin, through the parabolic, down through to the hairpin at turn number 6. Is the Porsche going to be able to, because that is renowned for being really good on the brakes, or is he going to just keep behind him? Yes, at the moment he is closing that gap super tight, giving the Audi a tight little punch. We'll really be able to look at the inside here into the Mercedes complex. A good part that Ron was saying that you can overtake. Look at the inside, look at that. Oh
my God.
Whoa.
That could have ended in absolute disaster. That is the hardest contact I've ever seen. I was fully expecting to see a GT3 car spearing wildly out of control off the racetrack. The fact they got away with that contact entering turn 8 that time by, and there wasn't a massive accident, is truly unbelievable, as a Sim HQ Motorsports Orange team is into the pits now to serve that penalty. It's such a shame there. They lost at the lead on the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple team, and they're coming into the pits yet again.
Yeah, they certainly are. That was super close. I thought that was Michael Hooper coming down the inside there of Robbie Prescott, but it wasn't. It was a bullet that was an LMDH car, and that was absolutely lucky that no issues were caused there. Losing a little bit of time there with the LMDH, just trying to get down the inside here. Look at this melee of cars we've got at the moment here going down into turn number 2. It's just It's an incident. Luckily, how's the three? So luckily, the three GT3 cars are relatively painless. I think it was an LMDH that got messed up there, but that was like a 6-car melee going into what is the narrowest part of the circuit after turn number 1.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers going off there in turn 2. We may have to take a look at a replay to see what created all of that. We were running on board with Michael Hooper as he went into that corner, and I was expecting a driver right in front of him to get an involuntary prostate exam with how deep he went onto the brakes there. We'll take a look at a replay. Antonio Rodriguez, who is the star of the show all throughout this broadcast, is at the center of another one here. You can see Michael Hooper nearly creating a contact, and I'm not sure who that was that made contact. It was a GT3 and a GTP making contact coming through turn 2, creating a spin. Thankfully, all the drivers that have arrived on that accident managed to scatter quite decently. This was actually the Penguin RC Simulation Carbon team were following Paul going into turn number 2, and it's a little bit of desperation there. He saw the pack of GTP cars right in his rearview mirror and realized, hey, I need to go for a move here unless I'm going to lose that on about 15 seconds at a lot of positions. So he tried to go for the move, lost a lot more time, and sadly for him, he is going to be out of that fight for now. We'll see if any sort of accidents happen between now and the checkered flag. We're in the last 10 minutes now, so I gotta imagine these drivers are going to be turning up the wick all the way now.
They certainly will be putting pedal to the metal in this final stages. 8 minutes left of this race, so around about 6 laps left remaining of this race to do, and that was a lucky escape for all 3 of them cars in the GT3 that were fighting out between the Rensfire Joke, the Workers Union. I'm just looking there, Penguin RC Simulation, where have they gone to? Because they were leading this battle. They have been caught up in some sort of incident because they are now well off the pace of the D's Porsche Grandfather Jug team in 5th and the Bearport Worker Unit in 6th. So
I think I know what might have happened here.
Go on,
I think I know what happened when we saw the Penguin RC Simulation Carbon car make contact with the GT3. Was that the Penguin RC Simulation GT3 car that he made contact with. The cars looked very similar. It was an Audi with a similar paint scheme to this one. So I think that might have been what happened. Teammates running in different classes, making contact, coming through two. I think that's what screwed over Rudy Valentine now, who's now running in 7th.
Either that, or he had a drive-through penalty because he actually hit the incident level. Let's have a look, see what happened. It may be because of that incident he got 4 incident points, which means he had to do a drive-through penalty, which is worse luck if that is the case. Let's have a look. I think that might be what has happened here, and that has literally taken him out of the fight. To be able to get that 5th place. I mean, that was turning into a grandstand battle, 3-car battle in the last 8 minutes of this race to take that 5th place overall. He comes in the pits here. Yeah, it looks like it is. So unfortunately for Rudy Valentine, it looks like P7 is going to be his position, but certainly there's a fight on in that GT3 Pro for that 5th place overall between the Dige Porsche and the Bearpunk Workers Union. So that's going to go all the way down to the wire. I think that's our closest battle we've currently got out on the track. We have got another battle here. I'm just looking down at the timing tower. Delta Syntech with the Bearpunk Enduro team. So this is another battle here we got for 8th and 9th. I mean, the Bearpunk Enduro team really cannot afford to have Ken Copeland go past him for putting him down into 9th place, because that's even more points they're going to lose in the championship overall, and that would be certainly a bad day at the office. But the last 8 minutes of this round will be the telling point of where this Bearpunk Endurance team that have not had the best day at the office finally finish.
I think we may not be in store for a grandstand finish, if I'm being brutally honest. The closest gap is between Overtake Team Black and the Tentora Delta Simtech team, the number 144 car, the Audi. That's actually 9.4 seconds back. That's the closest gap that we have for the lead battles here. We're following the Overtake Team Black car that was involved in that incident, still missing that front bumper, but surprisingly so, they have held off on that position. Still running in P1 right now. I believe, just doing some quick math in my head, we have about 3 to 4 laps to go now. So Sammy Hendricks, at this stage, he is definitely trying to be a man on a mission, trying to close that 9-second gap in the later stages. But unless the Overtake Team Black car gets involved in some sort of added and extracurricular accident, I don't believe it'll be Sammy Hendricks taking the win. It'll probably be Alex Peterson taking the checkered flag in that GT3 Pro category. But again, we saw that dramatic GT3 finish. Again, if you haven't seen that last time out at Spa, you can check that out after this broadcast is done. But we're expecting like 5 different drivers to win at the end of the GT3 race at Spa, but we saw a lot of drama. A driver coming up just short. It was about like a few feet short of taking the win there. It was such a dramatic finish there. Meanwhile, LMDH, it's been a dramatic race, won't be too much of a dramatic finish. However, it was drama packed to get here. It's currently a 37-second gap separating the Pneumatic Motorsports purple team from the Sim HQ Motorsports orange team. 37 seconds. That is a very extensive gap. Michael Diaz still negotiating the lap traffic. I will tell you how confident that this team, Precision Racing Esports, is in them taking the checkered flag in just a few moments' time at the front of the LMDH Pro category. I saw in the Apex Racing TV Discord server one of their drivers joining the Apex server. Ryan O'Connor decided to show up to Apex for his first time, join the Discord server because they're that confident that they're going to take the checkered flag in just a few moments' time here, Andy.
Well, I mean, you can't see passing any 52, nearly 53 seconds ahead. It's down for them to lose. You've got like 3 minutes left, so around about 2 or 3 laps left of this race through. But one interesting fact, so obviously with the 10-2 Delta Simtech 144 team driven by Sammy Hendricks. So I know Sammy from a previous season that I was commentating on the series, you know, and he was an amateur driver. You know, he wasn't the best. He was struggling a bit on there, and this is a real big advocate for people who are looking at these races and basically getting in. So Sammy was like at the back of the field, struggling really hard, did 3 seasons with us in that championship, and has gone leap bounds into where he is. He's now second place in the GT3 Pro category here at the Championship Motorsports. You know, he has come on leaps and bounds, and I can't advocate enough the advancements you can make when you come into organised seasons and series events by different factions, because it promotes good race practice, it promotes good racing. And you know, Sammy is a perfect illustration of somebody that came in first off, never really done league racing, you know, wasn't very good, but learned his racecraft off the people around him, got better season by season, and now we're seeing him at the front end of what is a very competitive field of this GT3 class, you know, and holding his own now. So, you know, big shout out to you, Sammy. You've done an exceptional job to get yourself where you are, mate, and you're doing a fantastic job here, bringing the car home in second place in a very competitive GT3 field.
Accent Racing LMDH has had some kind of off there in the pit lane. I think a very quick splash and dash, not confident in their ability to get to the checkered flag, which is coming in the not too distant future. We are 2 hours 58 minutes coming up to 2 hours and 59 minutes in, so we're going to have 1 minute left to go on the clock. These drivers will be taking the white flag this time by, one of them being Paul Darling in that Satellite Racing blue, the only Satellite Racing car still left on the lead lap, just barely. He is the last car left on the lead lap in that LMDH Pro category right now, ahead of 100 Force, which is a good result for them, trying to maintain that gap in P2 in the championship. I believe even with the drama that happened for the sister team, I believe we'll still leave this round with the Satellite Racing teal and blue 1-2 in that LMDH championship. But your leader, Michael Diaz for Precision Racing Esports, has taken the white flag this time by. He's going down the back straightaway. He has a fairly clean run between now and the finish, only a few more lap cars to negotiate. He negotiates one of them well before he even attempts to go on the brakes for this hairpin, a corner that we are expecting a lot of incidents at. We saw it, but Michael Diaz has been essentially flawless all throughout this race. As drivers were crashing and beating and banging into each other all throughout this race, Michael Diaz was the one that is looking like he is going to prevail. 58 seconds now. He may be winning this race by a minute if Penguin RC Simulations Magna, my apologies, has some sort of off in the dying stages of this race. We're running on board with him before he enters a Mobile 1 curve for one last time. Michael Diaz has been basically flawless all throughout this race. Precision Racing Esports, we're going for an interesting strategy. I was wondering in the early stages of this broadcast if it was going to work for them, but now it certainly is. Going through turn 13 and 14, entering the final two corners, which feel like one in a GTP car, and Michael Diaz rounding that final turn is going to see the checkered flag and take the win here at Hockenheim, winning in that LMDH Pro category with a massive gap between himself and the Penguin RC Simulations Magma team there in P2. And now James Stacy in the Pneumatic Motorsports Purple is going to be one of the next class leaders to take that checkered flag. He has a 32-second gap between himself and the Sim HQ Motorsports Orange team. It's been a dramatic race between these two Porsches, incident-packed, penalty-packed. It has been drama-filled all race long, but James Stacy in this car, he's up 3 positions from where he started. He just has 2 more corners to go through, and he will be able to take the win here in the LMDH AM category for Pneumatic Motorsports Purple, coming around that final corner for one last time, and he will be winning in the LMDH AM category. And now we just wait for the GT3 drivers.
Yeah, it definitely is, and some great racing there overall. We'll look back at the Overtake team back, action-packed and incident-packed with the GT3 Pro field, certainly with this Overtake team black, but has managed to keep himself on top. He has got the win here. You can see 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th places all past the checkered flag themselves, so this is almost like a victory lap here for the Overtake team black overall. Lunatic Racing, you can see there in the GT3 AM, took that with a 55.3 second gap overall to the long haul racing, so they managed to secure that 2-win streak in the GT3, the first team to be able to do that. But we'll watch here as Overtake Team Black take the checkered flag, the first victory here in the Championship Motorsports Team Racing Endurance Series. And it's been an action pack. It wasn't as thrilling. I think we got spoiled really wrong from Spa, but it was it was a different war of attrition for the drivers. It's a lot smaller track, so you know, as you mentioned earlier on when we saw the track back and Josh put it up, there was just no space really, and there was no clean space for the drivers, so they had to be concentrating throughout the whole of this race to make sure that they kept out as much incident. And to be fair, like you were saying as well, we sort of talked about it at the start, saying this could be one where we see a lot of incidents, big crashes, but overall we haven't. And again, like you said, that's down to the drivers. They give each other the space. There has been a few yeets and a few dubious overtakes, but you know, on the whole, another excellent advertisement for this series and how clean the drivers are in the races.
It honestly shocked me that these drivers didn't have as many incidents as I was expecting them to. Of course, as you said there, Andy, many drivers had contact with each other. It definitely wasn't a clean, well, it was a mostly clean race, 3 hours, and we probably had about, I'm trying to think now, maybe about 10 or 11 incidents that were really worth noting where there was something egregious going on. The fact they got through that race 3 hours long as cleanly as they did is very, very surprising. So I believe we have some more drivers waiting to take the checkered flag. But clean, I think on the subject of this race being exciting, it was definitely entertaining. There are a lot of storylines to follow. I think this race had big shoes to fill after the absolute barn burner that we saw last time out in Spa. And you can see, I mean, it shows you how dramatic this race was, even though it isn't as entertaining as it was at Spa. You have the driver at the front of the GT